Welcome up to the start of a beautiful new week. We're starting it well right here on the AM show. You know how we do it. We're going to be serving you all the nitty-gritty, all the tidbits you need to know from Ghana and beyond right here on the AM show with Bernice and Benjamin. Welcome aboard. Now, coming up this morning, of course, right after this, we get into the news, and then we'll be hosting Suleimana Brahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, for the News Review. And then from there, we head into sports as well with Muftau Nabila Abdullah. You know, we always keep it crisp, so stay with us for that. Then we get into the big stories for the morning. And today on the show, we're contemplating coup d'etats, military putches. Now, the African continent has experienced a couple of them this year, quite a number. Here in Ghana, the Chief of Defense Staff is optimistic there will be no coup d'etat in the country in the wake of the putschist onslaught on the sub-region. But can we trust this assurance? That's the question. Is Ghana somehow excluded from the factors that triggered the coup d'etats in our neighboring countries? And what would be those factors that are creating the exclusion? In fact, we've spoken to people who have said that the recipe, the ingredients are also in Ghana. So what is the Chief of Defense Staff saying? We'll analyze that on the first block of the show. Also coming up, some of you refer to it as its proper name, pink eye, scientifically known as conjunctivitis, but popularly known as Apollo. Now, there's been a rise in this infection in the country, and health authorities are worried, as should we. We'll be discussing this and show you how you can treat it. You know how it gets. You'll have a lot of pus or rheum in your eye. It's very painful. You'll have a reddening of the eye. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It's out and about. How to deal with it, we'll contemplate that right here on the show. Now, we invite you to join us with your thoughts on these issues and more. All those matters we'll be discussing on the show via the phone line and on social media. Ghana 4, up next, the news. Do stay. Welcome to the news leg of the AM show, and we start off with our very first story. Fire has gutted several shops at Kantamanto in Accra, destroying goods worth millions of cedis. The cause of the fire, which started Sunday morning, is yet to be determined. Firefighters from the Ghana National Fire Service were dispatched to the scene, but the fire had already spread to several shops.
In the early hours of Sunday morning, fire broke out at Abuja, at CMB, behind Cocoa Board, at Katamanto, one of the busiest clothes retail centers in the region. We will be speaking to a representative from NADBO to tell us how they intend to help the people.
First and foremost, we need to do the first thing by doing the assessment and taking inventory of all the households over here, and then we'll know the number of people we are dealing with. We can't just say we are dealing with 1,000 people whilst the number is 500, and we can't say we are dealing with 500 whilst the number is 1,000. So we need to really know those who have been affected and what belongings that have been destroyed by the fire, and to enable us know what provision to be made. We have already made arrangement for accommodation. We have made arrangement led by the MC. We have made arrangement to evacuate them to one of the schools and provide them with mattresses and the like to pass the night or two over there before we know what to do for them over here.
The municipal chief executive was also present to ascertain the level of damage caused by the fire.
As an assembly, we'll see what we can do to help those that are in need. With mothers and children, probably they may need a place to sleep. So that arrangement is already been put in place.
Now let's hear from the victims of the fire as they plead with government to come to their aid. It was around 4 a.m. this morning when I heard a lady shout that she had seen a thief. Because I am a woman, I couldn't come to catch the thief. Later, the same voice started shouting that Abuja is on fire. When we came out, we realized that the fire had started from the bakery. Some people tried to quench the fire, but to no avail, till the fire service came. Unfortunately, they arrived without water in their tank. So while they waited for water, the fire started spreading and we had to run for our lives.
My clothes, my television, everything I own is burnt. I don't know what to do. Government should come to our aid.
Everyone here moved from other places to settle here for greener pastures. If we don't reconstruct the structure soon, we will be homeless.
Actor and political aspirant John Dumelo was also here to sympathize with the people.
You know, we are doing the limited registration just around the corner, and one of the guys I work with, his mother has her place here, and so they told me about it, and I said, oh, why don't I drive here and sympathize with the mom and of course the rest of the people. Apart from that, also the couple of market women that I also deal with in terms of my farming activities are also in this area.
Despite the level of damage done, there are still people trying to make a business out of this, especially the scrap dealers. My name is Emma Davis.
Well, let's get into the political terrain now. And the minority side in Parliament has expressed worry over the Minerals Commission's continuous issuing of licenses and concessions to individuals, mostly Chinese, to mine very close to water bodies, including despite the ban. Now, at a press conference in Wa, addressed by ranking member of the Lands and Forestry Committee, Dr. Rashid Hassan Pelpuo, he disclosed that there was a strong evidence that government officials had engaged in the destruction of land and the environment. Joy News Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam now reports from Wa.
The press conference by members of the minority in Parliament titled "The Unabated and Unscrupulous Destruction of Our Lands and Waters with Impunity," and addressed by the ranking member on Lands and Forestry, Dr. Rashid Hassan Pelpuo, stated that the persistent campaign of the president and his government on the fight against illegal mining and mining processes have all turned out to be lip service.
Ghanaians have cried out against the purposeful destruction of our lands and rivers through illegal mining. As the cry is louder, so do the Galamsey operators and the willing agents in high places in government continue to perpetuate the practice. In this exercise, farmlands and rivers are destroyed, natural resources in the form of gold is stolen, and communities and their future are destroyed.
Dr. Pelpuo described as shameful and heartless a remark by President Akufo-Addo addressing the UAE Ghana Business Forum, praising the country's mineral laws that have stood the test of time.
Just 3 weeks ago, 23rd August 2023, an 18-year-old boy was shot dead and 2 others injured by security personnel of some Chinese illegal miners in Abrokofi community in the Dwabusu districts of the Western North region. The victims, who were members of the community, went to the mining site to work. The deceased, Kofi Arthur, was shot in the chest and died on the spot, whilst 2 injured victims, Joseph Tewia and Albert Opong, were shot in the thigh and lower back, respectively. This is what the president went to Abu Dhabi to hail as responsible environmental stewardship comparable to the best mining jurisdiction. A situation like this, where illegal miners can shoot and kill your citizens, is praising this as one of the best.
He disclosed that despite the ban on mining in forest reserves and close water bodies, the Mineral Commission has given out several licenses and concessions in 2022 and 2023 to individuals Mostly Chinese mine very close to water bodies, including at the exact locations already decimated by Galamsey.
They include Ankobra, River Ankobra, Pra, Tano, and Ofin, with licenses such as across River Ankobra. That is the area the license is given. You have Cape North Limited, licenses granted on the 7th of January 2023 to 17th of January 2023 to 16th of January 2053, mining in a riverside, very close to the river. To have ML2/47 alongside across River Tano and entering into the Buen Tano forest. The application date was in 2019, and in 2021 the president banned mining in these areas. Just 2022, it was all ignored, and the license is given for them to mine there.
The minority side in Parliament therefore made the following proposal to reverse the negative trend.
And that's in support of Ghana, Rocha Ghana, which had been persistent in pointing out these things to government. That number one, a public inquiry on the interministerial conference in illegal mining report by Professor Frimpong Boateng must be put in place. We need to have a public inquiry into it. Number two, we want a revocation of the executive instruments EI 144, cessation of forest reserve instrument 2022, which will remove 361.50 acres of forest from Achimota Forest Reserves, which is the lungs of Accra. Number three, pausing community mining. Community mining is destroying our environment. Given the fact that we have difficulties with monitoring and enforcing the practice, it is only logical that we suspend and eventually remove any attempt of community mining, which is a direct replacement of the Galamsey practices, which is destructive to our environment.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Let's talk education now, as the sector minister, Dr. Yao Osei-Edochum, has urged Ghanaians who seek to study in the United States of America to positively imbibe the American dream by coming back home to contribute to the development of Ghana. He spoke to potential postgraduate Ghanaian students at the USA College Fair here in Accra. There's more in this report put together by Harriet Akosia Kwachi.
The U.S. Embassy in Ghana has launched an education fair to assist Ghanaian students in applying for universities and colleges in the USA. In the 2021-2022 academic year, over 4,900 Ghanaian students studied at 600 U.S. colleges and universities, reflecting a 16% increase from the previous year. Organizers of this year's fair say the USA will be providing financial aids and scholarships worth $7 million. Speaking at the Education USA Fair, Education Minister Dr. Yao Osei-Edochum emphasized the importance of Ghanaian students returning home after their program to contribute to Ghana's development.
I asked myself that I went to meet with a mentor of mine, former congressman from California, Dr. Melvin Diamond, and I asked him, do I go to Ghana, do I stay here? He told me one thing. He said, yeah, you've done very well. Your schools are great, as America can do without you. Maybe your country can do without you. He spoke to my heart. I decided that I'll come back to Ghana. And I came back to Ghana, and something I never thought I would do, I became a politician.
Cultural Affairs Officer for the USA Embassy, Lanise Brooker, assured the embassy's commitment to supporting interested applicants get their preferred universities and programs.
We encourage those who are interested in studying in the U.S. to go to the Education USA. We can help the students from A to Z, from the very beginning when they are interested, to help them identify the school that they want to go to.
Jacob Reckford, an Associate Director of the International Graduate Recruitment of Drexel University, advised students to conduct thorough research before applying to any university.
Oh, this has been a wonderful event for us. We're meeting so many talented, interesting, wonderful students. People, I know that from my experience coming to Ghana before, do your research on U.S. institutions. There are over 4,000 institutions in the U.S. that do master's degrees fit your academic level, your interest, and your budget. So please do research and get in touch, because we always want to talk to you.
Postgraduate students who attended the fair expressed satisfaction with their experience, even though some couldn't find their desired programs. They hope the fair becomes an annual event.
It has been met, but I think the time is a bit short because the schools are many and you would have to go to each and every table to check to see whether the programs you want are on there.
So far so good. I mean, there's no negative vibe here. Like, so far, like, I'm impressed. I'm very, very impressed, and I like how things are going.
Harriet Akosia-Kwache's report for Joy News.
Three thrilling days filled with exceptional deals have concluded in the industrial city of Tema as the Joy News EcoBank Habitat Fair wrapped up its successful run. For those who couldn't attend and those seeking even more enticing offers, the excitement continues. Here's a glimpse of what lies ahead as we prepare for the mega fair in November at the Accra International Conference Center. Michael Ashali has more.
Hello, welcome to Tema. This is the Tema Metropolitan Assembly, where Joy News and EcoBank has been holding their third Joy News EcoBank Habitat Fair. Over here, we bring you nothing but the best players in the housing sector, right from buying your land or you want to own a house fresh. Well, this is the place to be. If you are thinking of how to put stuff in your home, furnish it, furniture, plastering, lighting, this is your one-stop shop for all your house problems. So one of our exhibitors, and we know for sure they are going to be there come November, is Global Lighting. And they walk us through definitely all that they have here. All your lighting problems, they have a solution for it. Thank you very much for joining us. What's your name?
My name is Nicholas Soate, Marketing Executive.
Wonderful, Nicholas. So, Nicholas, you have a lot of lights, different. I didn't even know we had this many different types of lights, right? What do you have for those that are going to come in November?
Okay, those that will be here, so we are coming in November at Conference Center, right? Yeah. Okay, so here we brought a few of our items, but at the main one we are going to bring wide varieties of Conference Center. Talk of different types of
the whole showroom.
The whole showroom to Conference Center. Talk of the different types of bulb from the 8 watts to 9 watts.
Which ones are those? Just show us.
Now this is an emergency bulb. This is one of its kind. With this bulb, when the light goes off, let me demonstrate. When the light goes off like this, and you're in darkness, don't worry. Just take off the bulb, put it in the holder, then you switch it on. Then you use it as a touch light. Then you can work with it. It will not electrocute you. When you get to where you want to use it, you can hang it. Then it gives you brightness where you want to use it. And the interesting thing about the bulb is it can last between 3 to 5 hours. When it's fully charged, 5 hours.
So I have seen Kent Grand Plus and there's Kent XL Plus. Really, these machines, what do they do?
Okay, so the Grand Plus and the XL Plus are both for borehole water. If you have borehole water in your home, these two are good for the borehole water to purify, to remove the salt from it. That's the reverse osmosis process. Yeah, now the difference is that this one is mounted on the wall and this one is fixed under your sink. If you don't want anything to show on your kitchen, then this is good for the sink under. But this one is for mounting on the wall.
Interesting. So for borehole, what if I don't have borehole and I have regular tap water?
Yeah, Yeah, so we have these two machines for your regular tap water, also for under the sink and wall mounting. It also goes through the same purification, but this goes through the normal purification because in our tap water there's no salt. So it just goes through the normal purification, the UV treated system as well. And then with this one, inside the tank, there's a UV in it, which keeps your water purified.
After going through all that has to be offered at the Joy News EcoBank Habitat Fair, for many people, what you're thinking about is, how do I afford it? What they affordable, but maybe you don't have the cash yet, right? There's EcoBank, definitely, that on standby to listen to whatever problem you have or whatever need that you have. And I'm thinking that they have a solution that meets you definitely halfway. Thank you very much for doing this with us, sir.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon.
What's your name, sir?
I'm Winston Wobel with EcoBank.
Winston, so for many people, it will be hard to fund their dreams. How does EcoBank make this dream a reality?
Yes, thank you. So I think over the previous fairs and even at this fair also, it's become very clear that EcoBank is very ready, and indeed there are many testimonies to this fact that we are ready to support individuals make the dream of home ownership come through. And there are several options available. As we've said, we have the traditional way of taking a mortgage. And the good thing about the EcoBank mortgage is that it gives you up to 20 years to pay for your house. And moving now, you have over 20 years to up to 20 years to pay. We also have the other financing options of even the buy now, pay later, where when your building is ready, getting it fit to live in becomes a challenge for some people, because if you are taking a mortgage, you would have started paying and then your funds become a bit tight. So we have the buy now, pay later option that allows you to buy stuff like your furniture, your kitchen cabinet, your other electronic appliances to fit into your home.
We're wrapping up in Tema here, but what should you expect from the Joy News EcoBank Habitat Fair? I have the General Manager of Sales and Customer Experience with the Joy News brand. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Great. So, for many, I've spoken to some of the patrons. They like what you've put up, but they want more. Is there more that you're offering?
Yes. First of all, let me say that this is our first time in Tema. It's been very exciting. We've gone around the clients, we've spoken to the exhibitors. Everybody's excited. I can say that we exceeded our expectations. I mean, Tema exceeded our expectations in terms of attendance, in terms of sales, in terms of leads that have been generated. Tema has been phenomenal.
It's our first time in Tema, that is the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair. It's been an eventful set of days here. Patrons, exhibitors are happy. But we hope to see you sometime later in the month of October in Kumasi, and then again in Takoradi, and then in November we'll bring you the biggest of the fairs. That is the November Fair. Watch out on all our platforms. We're definitely bringing you updates on that. You don't have to miss out on all the juicy offers and goodies that we given to patrons that decide to come through the mega fair itself. For Joy News, Michael Ale.
And on that note of the Joy News EcoBank Habitat Fair, if you've missed it, there's still a lot more coming your way in November. That's how we cap off the news this morning. But stay with us, the news review up next. Thank you for joining us on the AM show. It's time now for the news review, and we're getting right to it. Shortly, I'll be engaging the Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Brahima. But this segment, as always, is brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, they're offering you, if you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. You pay nothing. It is gratis. And here's why. There are so many men with prostate issues, especially from the 30s going. Back then, you would think from the 50s and 60s. Now, even men in their 30s are getting complications as far as their prostates are concerned. Do you know your status? If you're a woman, do you know your fertility status? And that is why you ought to make your way to Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra, they are at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. Then Kumasi, Kronum Abwehia, behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Tema Community 22, Takrade Anaji Estates. There's Techiman Hansua and the Siama and Zima. Their call lines are 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease, bringing us to the start, the commencement of the news review. 2 discussions I want you to have with me. Yes, you watching me here, whether on your technological device, your phone, tablet, phablet, whatever, or via the TV screen. 2, 1. There is a vicious cycle of fires, market fires, in this country. I just recalled this morning as we did the news and I got into the CMB area market fire that my very first story that I did when I got in here in the multimedia group was at Odona, fire, shortly followed by Kantamanto, fire. And that vicious cycle has continued before I came here, since I came here, and it continues every year. What is wrong with us? And then you have market people always going, and we are calling on Mr. President, and we are doing this. Why can't we put the right mechanisms in place? Even the big one in Kumasi. Same. What is wrong with us as a people? The second one, so I want you to share your reflections with me on that. The second issue has to do with coup d'etats in Western Central Africa. Today we're discussing it. And the Chief of Defense Staff says there's no way it's happening in Ghana. We'll not get there. But I put that side by side with what the likes of Professor Kwesi Ening, Professor Vladimir Nchidanso, Professor Apieje Etua of the University of Ghana have discussions they've had with me, and if I recall correctly, Emmanuel Bombande, saying that the ingredients that we see in other countries causing coup d'etats are here as well. And we know them. So what does he know that we don't know? What is your take on that, even before the discussion? Those 2 questions for you. Shoot us a message on Joy News on Facebook. But let me welcome aboard Suleiman Abraima, and I'll pick his thoughts on those 2 matters as well. Sule, good morning.
Good morning, Ben. I hope you can hear me. I'm doing it from a very awkward location this morning, but I hope you can.
I can tell you are not home, because if you were, I would know your usual position. So yes, I can tell. But you're loud and clear. We are fine. What are your thoughts on those 2 matters?
Well, on the, I guess the fires and the coup d'etats, right?
Yes.
Well, the fires, I think it's quite a worrying development, and it's becoming literally a part of our day-to-day accidents across the country. And as you've rightly mentioned, in the last 6, 7 or so years, we've had incidents of market fires, government buildings, catching fire. I remember during the time of Professor Mills, we had, Abu Blushi in fire, Kantamanto in fire, Asafu Market on fire, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs then behind the Tema Station on fire, and the ministry had to relocate to work from the Jubilee House then. And it's continued, all this, including the very catastrophic incident at Circle that resulted in the deaths of over 160 people, if you remember. So I think it is part of the indiscipline thing that we talk about. If you go to some of the markets and where people, women and men who are selling stuff, where they would cook, where they have their gas cylinders and all of that, you wonder whether people really care about their lives and their properties. Apart from that, I think we don't have a culture of fire safety. So whether it's our cars, our homes, and so on, the way we handle things, sometimes it's like, look, we really don't even know and care about the issues of potential fire outbreak. And so public education, I think, is quite critical. The Ghana Fire Service, I believe, has to do more in terms of public education. And people would say that sometimes they respond quite late. That is true. But we also do know that there are certain areas that no matter what, even if the fire station is just two minutes away, there's no way you can have a fire tender going in. In some of our communities and how congested they are, access roads have been blocked with containers and kiosks, and we look on as if we don't have city authorities. So it is the indiscipline, lack of law enforcement, lack of public education, inadequacy on the part of our fire service. All these combine to create the problem that we continue to endure and suffer as far as the fires are concerned. And so as a nation, it's something that we really have to work on. On coup d'etats, I certainly would not ever wish that there is a coup d'etat in Ghana. However, as you alluded to and as others have said, it is not about a wish. It is about what we need to do to make sure that such a thing would not happen. But again, as you referenced other people, on a daily basis, it appears that our government, particularly this government, appears to be running their country as if it's their personal property, and they manage it the way they want. They wouldn't listen to anyone. Even if those people were to be shareholders, they wouldn't listen to them. And they do things so brazenly, as if they don't care, whatever the people would say. And they've done it, whether you are talking about the Domelevo incident, you are talking about the cry for the finance minister to resign, the minister is still there, the incidents in parliament where we had the military coming in, the acts of corruption that is happening, sometimes the judicial decisions that people feel what is happening. Civil society goes to court, the Supreme Court, on the matter of Domelevo. And then the court waits until the matter becomes moot and then comes out to say, oh, what the president did was illegal. And then what could be corrected? Nothing. We have a situation now where I am learning that someone went to the court against the current Electoral Commission's decision to limit voter registration exercises to the district offices. We are told the matter has been scheduled in October, by when the registration process would have ended. And therefore, in that case, when a decision is made, I don't know what the implications would be. So all these things, when you continue to put the people at so much discomfort, so much pain, when you begin to make democracy so costly, as the EC is now doing, and surprisingly headed by, our big sister, Jean Mensa, who was with us.
Why do you say surprisingly?
Not surprisingly, because Jean Mensa was with us in civil society, and we were all standing up for issues of equity, issues of inclusion, issues of satisfying the needs of the vulnerable people, the needs of the poor in society. And today, she is heading the EC and is making our democracy, the participation in our democracy, so costly, so expensive. You have to incur a lot of money, expenses, to get to register, to get to put your name on the voters register. And one wonders why things must be this way. Why should we make our democracy so expensive and so difficult to participate in? As I said, I believe that if Jean Mensa was still heading IEA or in the civil society space, she would have been our chief spokesperson on this matter, criticizing what the EC is doing. But today, she's on the other side, and this is what we are witnessing.
Do you suspect that there's, just to conclude on this, do you suspect that there's something you see when you're in there versus when you're not in there? Because when I listened to Dr. Sribo Kweku on News File over the weekend, he suggested some of these very things. It was quoted back to him, some of what Jean Mensa had said back then and what they were seeing now. And he said that, sometimes when you're outside, there are certain things, I'm just paraphrasing, you don't see. And so when you get in, then you realize what the nitty-gritty is, and then you have to play along, supposedly in the interest of the nation. Maybe that's what's happening.
No, it certainly cannot be the case. It's a matter of, I think, principles and values. When you have certain principles...
So you think she's not being principled? She's not sticking to the values she exhibited before she took office?
I believe so, because it is not the case that it is impossible to have these electoral exercises done. And why would the EC wait until some 2-3 months before the district level elections for the limited voter registration exercise to be conducted? What had happened since last year, since the beginning of this year?
They say this is merely for the districts, and that if you're thinking of voting national, you don't necessarily have to register. My own question, though, is, I mean, whether for the districts or not, why limit it? Let as many people register as possible so that if you have a second one, the national one, you wouldn't have such numbers. So just open it up. Who cares who's voting for the district or in the district elections or whatever? That's my thinking, but I don't know.
No, when the Constitution talks about the right to vote and people are entitled to vote, the Constitution doesn't say that they are entitled to vote in presidential and parliamentary elections, and then they may decide to exercise that right, or the entitlement to vote when it comes to district level elections may be curtailed in whichever way. And as I said on Saturday, these are some of the comments that people at the Electoral Commission in particular would make to make it feel and look as if the district level election is subservient to the national level elections. It's as equally important. And I believe that even if we were to get our governance right, then we must get the local level governance right. And so, if anything, this is what we have to prioritize. Rather than say, if you think you don't want to vote at the district level elections, you can wait for the national level elections, we'll open it up, and then you register. I think that is quite problematic. And so, to conclude on that, as I said, I pray that there shouldn't be a coup d'etat, but people who are in leadership must act in ways that people will not even begin to think about the possibility of a coup d'etat. And to our military, I think that that is the only institution at this stage that people look up to. Of course, our big brother Dampare is doing the best that he can within the Ghana Police Service. But as you and I know, when coup d'etats happen, it is not the generals who do it. When Rawlings did coup d'etat, he was a flight lieutenant. The guy in the gentleman in Burkina Faso, leading Burkina Faso now, is not even he's not in the generals category. If you go to Mali, the guy who did it is not in the generals category. And so, yes, the generals may have whatever their plans are, and they still command and control the armed forces. But we need to admit the fact that when coup d'etats happen, quite often, the people who do the coup d'etats and succeed are not generals. Sometimes they are within the lower ranks. And so let us just continue to push. And the military has the power to push our leaders and say, look, what you are doing could give us troubles. And so do things right, rather than managing the country as if it is your father's property that you've inherited and you are deciding to do the way you want to do.
All right. Let's get into the stories very quickly with me, Suleiman Abrahima. Daily Graphic, re-echoing that bit we've been talking about. We won't support coup, Ghana Armed Forces assures. I found it interesting because both in Ghana and Nigeria, towing the same line and spewing similar rhetoric. But like we have said, the ingredients and the things we ought to be doing, those are what should be of a concern. In certain democracies, a coup d'etat won't even be thought of because the people have what democratic practice should give them. Is that the same case here? So while no one wants any of this, why don't we fix what the problems are? So the military has pledged to protect the Constitution and the sovereign will of the people and not to engage in any activity that will threaten the peace and democracy of the state. The coups in West Africa, quote, are a major concern, but for us, we are resolved to protecting the Constitution and the will of the people. If the people decide that democracy is the type of governance they want, then we need to respect that, the Chief of Defense Staff, Vice Admiral Seth Amwama, said last Friday when the leadership of the Ghana Journalists Association paid a courtesy call on him at his office in Accra. And he added, quote, our mandate is to protect the territorial integrity of the state, and we are focused on that. So when you hear any news of a coup, you should be assured that the Ghana Armed Forces are not interested in governance. We believe that if the people don't want the government, they have a maximum of 4 years to change it, he said. The GJA team, led by its president, Albert Kwabena-Jumfor, embarked on the visit to discuss issues of mutual interest between the Ghana Armed Forces and the GJA. I don't know whether there's any other, there appears not to be a solution, whether it is increasing the tenure, decreasing the tenure. In the Ivory Coast, or in Cote d'Ivoire to be more specific, they have, I think, is it 5 or 6 years? And I don't know whether it is make it 1 term for everybody, the individual or something, because sometimes the leadership simply goes south and there's nothing you can do about it. And politicians have a field day and do all the nonsense they want to do because we have a mandate and we have a term limit. And within that period, we can do anything we like and refuse to listen to anybody because we've been democratically elected. That also leaves the masses in the lurch. And then there's nothing they can do. Their hands are tied. And that honestly annoys me. Because these political parties are playing ping pong with us, table tennis. And they do whatever they like. That's my problem. Anyway, we'll stick to the democratic principles, yes, but these political parties better learn. Sule, exactly. I see you want to come in again.
It's quite a worrying and sad development. Sometimes I ask myself, what is really wrong with our leaders? That they get to power. And it's not about doing things that, will leave a legacy, would let them be remembered positively. Like in our own country today, President Akufo-Addo, the expectations and the hope and the confidence that people had in him, it's all dissipated. I believe that if President Akufo-Addo hadn't become president, all of us would have said that, the best president Ghana never had. But look at what is going on in our country today. And surprisingly, they sometimes will feel, they've done the best that no one has done. President Akufo-Addo goes around saying, I've done this, my government has done this more than any other government in the history of Ghana. The last time I heard, it was education, and I think it was the education minister who was saying that, this government has done improved secondary or whatever it is than any other government. And I was like, when they are speaking, is it a dream? Because there was one philosopher who said that when you are dreaming, you don't know that you are dreaming. And therefore, sometimes...
La vida es sueño. Life is a dream. There's also that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You come and destroy secondary education in the country, and then you still are out there touting that you've done the best for secondary education in the country. Today, kids, and I have relatives who are in secondary school. They go 7 weeks, 8 weeks, they come back 3 months, they are in the house. They go back 7 weeks, 8 weeks, they come back 3 months, they are in the house. What kind of education system is that? You change curriculum. The next time we realize you are changing it again. You are changing it again. You change the schedule. The across board. The exams is to be done in this, it is to be done in that school selection process. This is not the way to do it. That is the way to do it. Everything is in a mess. And people have to pay bribes at the education ministry to get their kids placed, as we revealed. These are things that are in the public domain. And yet they'll go around bragging. We've done this more than any other government in the history of Ghana, and so on. You look at what is happening in Cote d'Ivoire. The man has changed the constitution. He's likely to go for additional terms. In Togo, one family, a son and father, they've been there since independence.
Yeah.
Why are our leaders not telling them the truth? And then they wait for things to happen before they now, up in arms.
Look at Ali Bongo. How long had he, together with his family, been in power? His father, then him, and in fact now even the general who has taken over is a cousin to Ali Bongo. So exactly. I guess it's a continuation.
You look at the decision that they've made. The East and Central African Commission. Where have they taken it to? The Economic Community of Central African States. They've taken it to Equatorial Guinea, where Denis Sassou Nguesso has been in power for more than 40 years, and he's still there. And you say, you are taking it from Gabon because there's no democracy. And you are taking it to a country where somebody has been there for 40 years.
So they will not, the regional groups will not do what it takes to avert coups. But when coup d'etats happen, then they'll jump up and say they are trying to fight coup d'etats. Honestly, it makes no sense to me.
At all, at all. I mean, look at AU. AU says, oh, we've suspended Gabon. Well, fair enough. Coup d'etats shouldn't be tolerated. But you were watching when these things were happening. Museveni is in Uganda. How many years now? Almost 40 years now. Denis Sassou Nguesso, more than 40 years now.
Right.
And we are looking on. So what kind of leadership is this?
That is, we've hit the nail on the head. I saw Obrimpon Kaba, you were sending many clapping hands for what we're saying. And that is the reality, you know. We have to call a spade a spade. In the interest of the nation, we love the nation, which is why we're saying this. I have said, look, I lived through a bit of Nigeria. I didn't know what was happening. I was too little. I saw in Liberia what happened. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. But if you keep doing things a certain way and not take care of the people, it may not even come to a coup d'etat. You may have a lot of civil unrest and things that we don't need. So leaders, do the right thing. We're willing to support you. Just do the right thing. And lead us there, to the land flowing with milk and honey. There's also Razak Ibrahim Garba who says, good morning. What is happening in Ghana currently? The masses will... Okay, so I can't read that message because you're saying something that we do not adhere to or stand for. But let's do the right thing. On page 5, Libya floods death toll reaches 11,300. And our hearts go out to the people of Libya and to the people of Morocco as well. Brings back memories of my time in Casablanca. What happened there recently, the earthquake. May God help, them, even as the humanitarian effort continues. But this one I want to run by you, Suleimana, as we leave this paper. Two ones. France won't cut cultural ties with 3 African coup countries. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. There was that threat recently instituted by one of the ministers that, you know what, you can't travel. In fact, you can't travel to France from any of these countries now, no matter who you are. But then the cultural relations groups said, no, but we've never attached such sanctions to cultural activities. For example, artists, musical artists and the rest. What are you people doing? So that is part of it. And I only feel this is going to worsen the relationship of France, La République de France, with these entities, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso. France shouldn't think because it's a former colonist, it can just do anything. I love France, okay? That's why I learned the language. But some of these actions, I do not think will inure to the benefit of France. If the French ambassador is listening, I'm saying this here. It will not inure to the benefit of France. It will rather detach France further from La Francophonie, and that could be a problem. I don't know what your take is on that, but let me just add, fire outbreaks cost nation 64 million Ghana cedis. We're talking about the fire outbreaks, and this is the cost of it on the Ghanaian taxpayer. Quick reflections?
Well, I think at this stage, France would be sitting up and reflecting. What is it that can be done to improve relations between the country and its former colonies? Because what is happening certainly does not put France in a better place. Certainly does not give France a good image, because everyone from Mali to Burkina to Niger to
even to Guinea. Guinea hasn't really, but Guinea is also in that frame.
To these other countries where coups have not happened, the masses are of the opinion that, look, they are suffering, their poverty is partly as a result of the relationship that they've had with France, over the years.
In fact, when the French ambassador in Niger, I'm sure you've seen the video, was taken out forcibly. Well, he was not roughed up, but we saw him being escorted out by the military junta. People had gathered there with phones, and do you know what they were saying? They were all chanting, voleur, 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 thief, thief, thief. That's what they were saying.
So I think that, look, it's not the best. The relationship has certainly been in a state of imbalance over the decades, and certainly people feel France has exploited West Africans for far too long. It is important that France reflects, maybe revise its foreign policy in relation to these colonies. It cannot be that way forever. And we have to all be honest and be sincere with ourselves that the relationship has not been the best. And therefore, it's about, building the diplomatic relations that are mutually beneficial. People say, why haven't any of the Anglophone countries been in the state that the Francophones have been in? I think it is also partly the foreign policy that the colonial powers have had with their former colonies. So all that I would say is that, look, it's time for France to begin to reflect and tell itself, things cannot be as it has always been forever. We cannot continue to take advantage of, these colonies forever. But I also think that whatever it is, these former colonies must not also act in ways that would, basically have result in a poisonous relationship with France. I think on the side of the colonies too, it's important that they look at whatever policies they want, then do meaningful negotiations, meaningful discussions, and say this is what we think will benefit our people, and let's meet halfway. I think we need to build a global architecture that supports human development, that supports peace, that supports progress. That's all that and all parts or both sides must look at it that way.
Okay. In the next few minutes, we'll have to wrap up. This comment comes in. Obrimpong Kaba again says, sometimes I wonder whether they credit Ghanaians with some common sense at all. Is it juju or what? In other words, some of the comments that sometimes our leaders come up with and spew them when our reality is starkly different. The Ghanaian Times, Apollo outbreak upsurge nationwide, and that is according to the Ghana Health Service boss. We'll be discussing that today, conjunctivitis or pink eye, Apollo. It's on the rise again. I mean, the last time I had any experience of this was many years ago. I was in basic school at the time, but it's coming to the fore again. And there's also Ghana set to establish lithium refinery in Western region. And then this one on page 12, Alan Greenstreet to partner for 2024. That's the question. Let me just bring you a bit of that story. So, following the new Patriotic Party Superdelegates Conference and the subsequent withdrawal from the presidential primary slated for November 4, 2023, Alan John Chabating, the former Minister for Trade and Industry, is said to be exploring the idea of partnering with the Convention People's Party's Ivor Kobina Greenstreet for the 2024 general elections. According to a reliable source who spoke to the Ghanaian Times and pleaded anonymity, Mr. Chamating initiated talks with the two-time CPP flag bearer for a possible alliance. What do you make of this? Is it feasible? Is it practical? Will it work? And will it make any dent on the fortunes of the two political parties, or especially the NPP? What's your take?
Well, they say in politics anything is possible, anything can happen, but this is too far-fetched to believe. I'm wondering,
So you would be surprised. You would be surprised if this happened.
Yes, I'll be surprised. And it's also about political traditions and what one believes in. Alan, as we all know from his youthful days all the way up, has been a member of the NPP and as they call themselves, the UP tradition. And I think that the UP tradition is much more opposed to the ideas and philosophies of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah than even the NDC. And so it will be really surprising for such a figure within who has been a member and a leader in the NPP all this while to suddenly switch to join the Convention People's Party in whatever capacity. I think that it is, quite something that is, as I said, anything can happen, but I don't want to believe it.
All right. There's also the Daily Guide newspaper. Kozier takes free healthcare to Adenta. And there's Houseboy sells Madam's car for 100,000 Ghana cedis. It appears now the house helps are, getting into the fray from Cecilia Dapa to this one. Jean Mensah on it, and then NDC organizer grabbed for registering minors. Let me start from there. So the National Democratic Congress constituency youth organizer Courage Tete has been arrested for fronting for the registration of some minors to obtain voters' ID cards in the ongoing registration exercise. He was arrested in Dodowa, the district capital of Shai, Osudoku. The arrest was made possible by some NPP agents who called the police after suspecting foul play. I've heard this from both ends, but the Daily Guide newspaper has captured this end of the story. It is fine. But all of these incidents should not be happening. That is the bottom line. Those who are registering should be of age at the point of registration. Then it has emerged that John Alistair, the houseboy accused of killing his madam and stealing her Kia Sportage, sold the car for 100,000 Ghana cedis. According to information obtained by the Daily Guide, the alleged recidivist used part of the proceeds to buy a Toyota Vitz with plans to use it for Uber services. Well, the law will take its course there. Jean Mensah honored. For what exactly? Let's find out. The chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Ms. Jean Adukwe Mensah, has received a recognition from the International Audit Agency for being prompt in addressing recommendation from the agency and for her overall support for internal audit routines. I see an award being presented to her by Yao Osafo Mafo. So you say you have your issues with her, but she's getting awarded, though, Suleiman Abrahima.
Anyway, well, anything can happen. Congratulations to her for receiving an award from being presented by the senior minister, Honorable Yao Osafo Mafo.
Why do I sense some sarcasm? Why do I sense some sarcasm in what you're saying? Are you being sarcastic?
Well, the Electoral Commission is an elections management body. We would assess it on the basis of its conduct on processes around the elections or processes leading to elections and how elections are conducted.
Right.
If we are told that it has managed its resources well, congratulations to Madam Jean Mensah, and we thank Honorable Osafo Mafo for doing the presentations to her.
All right. It's a wrap. I'll just leave viewers with some headlines. The Ghanaian publisher, Stop Peddling Lies. Minister cautions Ken Ejapong. I'm talking about the Minister for Works and Housing, Francis Asenso-Boakye. Allen's Plan B uncovered, same as we've spoken of. And EC will fully roll out non-stop registration next year. Dr. Siribo Kweku says that in the Chronicle. Suleimana, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Ben. Have a great week.
I wish you same. And of course, Wood Eduji says, and the ECOWAS doesn't see anything wrong until the military, who are to protect our democracy, do what they are meant to do, right? Okay. And then Mulua, I don't know whether you're from Ghana, but you say this government is a joke. That's what you say. That's how we bring a conclusion to the news review. Right before we veer into sports, this segment brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. If you're a man, they're offering you free prostate screening. If you're a woman, free fertility screening. Locate them here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi, Kronom Wabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. Takrade Anaji State, Tema Community 22. Techiman Hanswa and Siaman Zama. Their call lines 0244-867-068 or 0274-234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Bringing us to the end of the news review and the start of sports up next.
Hello, welcome to AM Sports here with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullah. Let's start with the Ghana Premier League stories. And Accra House of Oak, they opened the new Ghana Premier League campaign for 2023-2024, suffering a 1-0 loss at the hands of Real Tamale United at the Aliu Mahama Sports Stadium. And then on a Saturday, it was the turn of new Ghana Premier League team Tano Bafoka against Great Olympics. That game ended 0-0. But let's take a look at the results of matches that were played on March day 1 of the Ghana Premier League. On your screens is At the Elwak Sports Stadium, Legon City's 1-2-1 against Kaola United. They had to come from behind. But before the game was kicked off, there was a minute silence for Sylvester Saki, who died a few days ago. And also in Strathroman, they defeated Bechem United 2-0. Ediana Stars lost 1-0 to Samatex. At the Golden City Park, former Kumasi Asante Kotoko forward Stephen Amankona scored twice as they won 2-0 against Bibiani Gold Stars. And at the Bayara Sports Stadium, Kumasi Asante Kotoko, they drew 0-0 against Heart of Lions. On Wednesday, 2 more matches would be happening. Dreams FC, by virtue of their CAF Confederation Cup competition, did not play their Ghana Premier League game. And also, Midiama FC, they also did not play their game. But now let's take a look at Midiama FC. They won 3-1 against Horoya of Guinea. That game was played at the Cape Coast Sports Stadium. And by virtue of that victory, if they are able to avoid suffering a 2-0 defeat in the second leg of the tie in Guinea, they will be qualifying to the group stages of the CAF Champions League. Meanwhile, Dreams FC at the Accra Sports Stadium, they won 2-0 against Sierra Leone on side Calon FC. It took one of their new signings, John Entry, who said he was coming in to help them do well in the CAF Confederation Cup, to convert a penalty as they won by 2-1. And they will also be seeking to qualify to the group stages of the CAF Confederation Cup. They are making their debut in the continent's second flagship competition. And they were able to get to this stage following their 3-2 aggregate victory over Milo FC, the Kankan of Mali. And now they are seeking to get a place into the group stages of the CAF Confederation Cup. This was a penalty that was converted by John Entry to hand them a 2-1 win in this tie. And the second leg, according to the Chief Executive Officer of Dreams FC, Amini Shado, the venue for the second leg is yet to be determined by Calon FC. So they are awaiting a confirmation of where the second leg will be happening. That's your sports for now, but you can head on to myjoyonline.com and read some more sports stories. Loads of athletics happening over the weekend. The 5,000 meters record has been shattered by Ethiopia's Chigai. Mondo Duplantis, who also had a world record of 6.23 meters in the pole vault, has shattered that world record at the Eugene Stadium. Fred Kipyegon also had an incredible run. In the 100 meters hurdles, Toby Emusan won it with 12.33 seconds, and also Coleman defeated Noah Lyles, or should I say, overcame him to win the 100 meters. Sharika Jackson also won the women's 100 meters, with Wright Benjamin also overcoming Warham to win the 400 meters hurdles. Head on to myjoyonline.com and read some more sports stories. We appreciate your time. The show continues right after this.
Welcome back on the AM show. We veer now into the big stories, and we start by contemplating the coup situation in not just West, but Central Africa as well. But coming home, there's been talk from the Chief of Defense Staff that is not going to happen in Ghana. It's not going to be supported by the military. If you take a look at the Daily Graphic today, he says, we won't support coup d'etat. But if you look at the recent happenings in the sub-region and everything in between, does that assurance hold? Does it hold water? Does it have legs to stand on? With all the dynamics that are taking place or happening across the sub-region, with the wind that is blowing. Well, this morning, we contemplate that conversation together with our guests, Justice Tangebe. He is a criminologist and associate professor at Cambridge University in the United Kingdom. We also have Paul Kunle Boateng. He's a security analyst. Both of them join the conversation. We'll have other guests join the conversation as well from the military standpoint, ex-military officers. Well, gentlemen, a very good morning to you. I'm assuming it's morning where both of you are. And thank you for joining us on the AM show.
Hello.
I would like to hear both of you to ensure that both of you are on.
Yeah, hello, good morning.
All right, that's good to hear. I'll start with you, Justice. So from where you sit, maybe I would look into criminal mindedness and how all of this can impact what we're facing. We have the issues of high stock inflation. Inflation is slightly above 40% currently in Ghana. It's the best we've had in 11 months, thereabouts, over 40%. Then you look at the other dynamics you're facing tied to inflation, fuel prices, the cost of food and everything. You look at the fight against galamsey, corruption and everything in between. Yet we're being told there's no opening for coup d'etats in Ghana. Similar rhetoric has been spewed in Nigeria. From where you sit, I'd like to find out, what do you make, first of all, of the happenings in West Africa, especially Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and away from here, Niger? What do you make of those, and what do you think the factors were?
Thank you for having me. I think if you look at those instances of political instability, I think what they communicate to us is that we need to have governance that benefits people.
Okay.
That respect who they are, and we have chosen democratic governance for a particular reason. It is that we want governance that creates equal opportunities. We want governance that respects, or the political elite respects the rule of law. They do not disrespect us as citizens, and that there isn't impunity or unaccountability in the way that you have seen in a number of these countries. So I think those are the issues that we need to consider. Of course, military regimes are never really the solution, right? If you look at some of these countries, Ghana, for example, the kind of legal, if you like, brutality that you see, it's not something that a military regime is going to solve. If you look at unequal distribution of wealth, unequal distribution of opportunities, unaccountability, those are not issues that the military regime can resolve. But of course, there are issues that if we do not address, they make us vulnerable to some of these incursions. But I think we also have to say that military incursions are not the only thing that any country should be worried about. I think you can have a situation where there is just a slow decay of institutions, of society, and so forth. Those are also things that we need to be worried about because, again, they would exacerbate whatever problems that we have, and we certainly do not want that to happen.
We certainly don't want that to happen. Of course, the right things must be done to prevent some of those. But Paul, coming to you, when you look at the tail of the tape, the storyline that cuts across the West African sub-region, interestingly, Francophone West Africa, Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and then you can go to Niger as well. What do you make of happenings there?
Thank you for having me. I think someone can say that because they are Francophone countries, but I don't see it that way because generally, if you look at what is happening in West Africa, especially, you can say one thing, that is poor governance by elected leaders. So if you look at all these countries that have experienced coup d'etats just recently, there are other issues that they always complain about. Just as Justice said, corruption is one, Nepotism is one. Human rights abuses. And a lot of people don't have job, especially youth unemployment rate is going in high. So if you look at all these things, then you see people complaining, calling for military rule, that is where you see military coming in because they are there to, somebody will say intervene. It's not that military will just stand and wake up one day and take arms and overthrow government. There are other factors that they base on before they take any steps. So, well, I don't see that coup d'etat is only going to happen in the West Africa, the Francophone countries in the West Africa. I believe if we are not able to, stick to the principles of democracy, to be a term that you cannot control what is going to happen in West Africa. So for me, I don't think it's really going to happen in Francophone West African countries.
Justice, just a quick one. Do you subscribe to that line of thinking? Some have also suggested that, things may not be going well with La Francophonie, so to speak, in Africa because France may have had too much of a tight grip or its politics in West Africa and Central Africa, as a fact, may not be going well. But do you feel there could be a spillover into Anglophone West Africa as well?
Well, I think every country, unless you have built some kind of resilience, unless you have addressed some of the issues that we've just been talking about, issues of corruption, issues of equal opportunities, issues of reassuring people that there are democratic solutions and so forth, any country will be vulnerable. And I think it will be unwise for anyone to say that, no, it can never happen to me. I mean, that's really not a statement you can make. If we were to ask the Burkinabe government the day before the coup, they would have said, of course, it's not going to happen here. If we were to ask the military command in Gabon or in Niger, they would have said, of course, we are not interested. This is never going to happen. The whole point of military interventions is that sometimes they are unpredictable and so forth. So I think we cannot say that it will never happen to country A or country B within, of course, sub-Saharan Africa. But what can reassure us is not just statements from governing elites, including the military. What can assure us is clear, tangible steps to address some of the issues that created this dissatisfaction. And I think that's what we should be worried, for example. I mean, if you look at the Afrobarometer survey, I mean, it's been going on for quite some time now. I've just been looking at the data. You see that in 2008, only 16% of Ghanaians supported military rule. Today, it's almost a third, right? It's almost 30%. That is really something that should be of concern. What it signals to us is that we are not governing for the benefit of people, and maybe they become desperate, and that's why they see in military interventions a certain solution. But as I've said, it's not a solution. It's not going to address the issues of corruption, impunity, respect for the rights of citizens, and so forth. So it's important that we address those things. We use democratic avenues to address those concerns.
Just let me stay with you briefly. We have stated here categorically that a coup d'etat is not the way to go. It does not bring any, development. But the question then is, why are these countries, with this knowledge, still choosing that route? And if you look at the coup d'etats that have happened in the sub-region and the sort of support that these military expeditionists or the junta have had, it raises quite... I mean, the last one I saw purported to be a video of the ousting of the French ambassador in Niger, for example. People were actually there, ordinary citizens, when he was brought out. Of course, he's a diplomat. He must be handled in a certain way. Brought out And there were chants of voleur, 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 thief, thief, thief. That was what the people who were there with their phones, you know, if that can be corroborated, were saying. There seems to be that support. And like you rightly said, that latest report, some years ago, you had, just about 16% saying they would support something like this. Now you have a third, about 30% in Ghana saying they would opt for it. Does that point to an erosion of the governance institutions? Does it point to any deterioration of democracy in the sub-region, specifically in Ghana? What's your take?
Well, I think we can, it's safe to say that. And we have to make a distinction between support for democracy per se, and then, of course, satisfaction with the way that it works. And again, here, the Afrobarometer is very helpful in making that distinction. And you will see that support for democracy as a way of organizing or governing ourselves is consistently high. It is satisfaction with democracy that is problematic. It's hovered sometimes around 50%, sometimes less than that. And if you look at those who are very satisfied with democracy, sometimes it's around 20%. But the reason, these Francophone countries will seem to be a peculiar case in this respect, because if you look at France and what it's doing in these former colonies, as it were, that is clearly an unjust situation. You have an external, if you like, an imperialist power that is continuing to exploit these countries. And so it's very easy to see why we would want to just get rid of this bully, as it were. But again, we might want to look at the history, might want to look at the data, especially for the political scientists who've been studying this, to see whether military regimes really help to improve democratic governance in the long term, whether they address the problems that we've just been talking about. I don't really think that they would address those issues. The problem we've had is that we've got a governing elite that doesn't seem to understand the population that it's governing, that seems to hide behind legalese, that issues of ethics appear to be a dirty word in governance, and that they're so narrowly preoccupied with law and so forth. Those are issues that we need to address. And I think the more we work towards resolving those issues, the better. I don't think any democracy or the democracy we have in Ghana or in the sub-region, it's a kind of fantasy democracy, one that presupposes that there will never be any difficulties, there will never be any economic, political, social, whatever challenges. We recognize those things will happen, and that's why we have designed it in a way that we can resolve some of these things that when they do arise, so that we don't move from a problem to a catastrophe. I think the challenge is that we are failing to address those issues. We don't seem to be taking public sentiment seriously. We don't seem to be paying attention to fair distribution of opportunities, fair distribution of wealth, and ensuring that institutions work. No one wants a democracy in which the rule of law is not respected. That's just like a contradiction in terms, right? I don't want a situation where I'm arrested on Wednesday, I'm denied access to even my family, let alone lawyers. I go to court the next day, I'm sentenced and sent to, say, in Nsawam, and that's the only place from which I can call my family to say, hey, I'm here in Nsawam. That's not a democracy. We need to try to address some of those issues.
Right. Thanks for those thoughts. I'll come to you shortly, Paul. We have a message from Williams Donko, who says people are really going through lifetime difficulties, but a coup is not an option. That's what Williams sends through. Let me now engage Captain Budukumson, retired. He joins the conversation. He has been there, done that. He's been in the thick of things, and is here having a conversation with us. Capito, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
It's really good to have you. It's been a long time. I hope you're well.
I am well, and greetings to your audience.
Great. Let's get down to it. You followed the dynamics in our sub-region and, of course, Central Africa, where there's been a spillover. Now we've got the assurance from the Chief of Defense Staff that the armed forces in Ghana are not going to support any attempt at a coup. That should be enough assurance for us, or should it? What's your take?
Well, I think it was a very good assurance. The assurance itself was very reassuring. And then I find that this sort of open and frank interaction of the CDS and the military hierarchy with the press is very bold and a significant and sign of professionalism and confidence on their part. You see, well, that is my opening comment on that.
So can we basically go to sleep? I mean, recently in Nigeria, we heard similar sentiments shared that, with Nigeria and everything, and of course, President Bola Tinubu recently taking power. I heard someone, I'm not sure whether it was a senator, but some government official saying that it will not happen in Nigeria. I was in Lagos recently, and trust me, what I saw, the real dynamics, just as we have here, versus what the government official was saying, are starkly different. So now that the military has said, the Chief of Defense Staff, we are not interested in this, can we go to sleep and just assume, okay, they've said it, so all is well?
Of course not. Of course not. You see, when you lead men well and engage with them well, train them well, and be with them, in the trenches, and do not be remote. We have remote leadership. That is not the issue for the military and security agencies. You provide them with the necessary tools and equipment, and generally they see that you are doing all in your power, to provide them with the necessary tools and training and keep them busy. Normally, people will respond well to you.
Right.
I recently read in the papers. The Southern Command is organizing one of the big exercises. You see, exercise this, exercise that. It keeps them trained. And at the moment, for the last few years, you will attest that the security agencies, there has been, within our constraints, a concerted effort to equip them. Have you had that feeling? The police, the military, the armored cars, the ships, and all these things. These things, when you provide them these resources, and you train them, and you keep them busy, and you are upfront with them, normally people will respond. But to say that do we have to go to sleep? Of course not. We should be constantly working at maintaining or even improving our security posture, because the threat in the sub-region is real. We have this concept of negative proximity. We are in an area where all these things are going on, and it is contagious. So this is not the time to go to sleep. This is rather the time to improve our security posture. What really worries me, actually, is that recently there have been too many, maybe people like myself, so-called security experts, and not so well-informed persons in security issues, with influence and access to the media and social media, making all sorts of assessments and incendiary statements and comments, which rather pose a greater threat to our internal security posture. This is my concern. Creating unnecessary tension and making allegations that are not really founded in knowledge and fact. It's a bit worrying.
So you say it's a big worry. Interestingly, I have had people, the Professor Innings, the Professor Vladimir Nchidansos, in fact, on a page, a security page where I find myself, someone projected, and there have been projections that more coups would happen, even before Niger and Gabon in the Central African region happened. And they have. And some are projecting that more will happen in these regions before end of year. But you touched on governance matters. You said that these countries may not be doing what is expected of them when it comes to governance, that could be a catalyst. Is that correct?
Well, I haven't touched on it this morning, but what you are saying is true. Is true. I mean, governance is a huge factor, and in fact, let me acknowledge the two security couples that you mentioned. I appreciate them. These are not the people I'm talking about, but we have all sorts of people making security assessments and statements. But governance is essential, because if the governance is weak, we have weak institutions, state constitutions being disparaged, democracy itself not being genuine, and all sorts of things. It creates a problem. It creates a problem, and that is my concern. By all means, governance is key here. Governance is key.
Now, just looking at the advance of the putschists or the coup makers, their onslaught in the sub-region, you would also notice a certain thread. Apart from Niger, where I've seen that, top military officers were involved, you might even speak of, and Gabon in recent times. But when you look at the Mali and the Guinea and the Burkina Faso, usually they are not the generals or very high-ranking officials. The reason I pose that question, the Chief of Defense Staff may be in his quote, and pardon my using this, it's the only expression that comes to mind, ivory tower, but how about those at the bottom? Should we take it for granted that they'll be whipped in line?
Yeah, you see, nobody can actually prescribe a coup. I have been saying this, I don't know since when. Nobody can actually prescribe a coup. The issue is that we actually have to do things, understand the causes of coups, and start addressing these causes of coups. That is the surest way to prevent them. But to say that the CDS is this average tower, I don't know. But like I said earlier on, when you are with them in the trenches, when they see that you are trying your level best to provide them the equipment and the tools they need, providing them with the training and not being remote. I remember during the June 4th days, right? They were arresting officers in all units. My unit, 5 battalion, we decided that we will stay with the troops. And for all those 90-something or 100 days that the AFRCC lasted, we were with them, we slept with them, we trained with them, we spoke with them, we did everything with them. And when they see that genuinely you are helping, they respond. Look at the trainings ongoing, the soldiers are busy. You see, when they are also not busy and they feel neglected, I'll give you an example. Nigeria fighting Boko Haram. You have the kids constantly complaining about bad logistics, bad equipment, and all sorts of things. And then bad leadership. Those things can trigger coups. Nobody can actually prescribe coups, but it is leadership that will, and understanding the causes of it. What gives cause to these things? Because if somebody coming to take a coup, he's not going to consult you. He's angry in his own corner, and he is right in his own sense, and will not, very, very often, he has an exaggerated status of right and wrong, and he will do whatever he will do. Nobody can prescribe a coup, but close, good leadership, training, equipment, and these things will go along. And then again, governor, in a lot of these countries where you see these coups happening, you realize that the government, central government presence in a huge rate of those countries was weak. What you call development was not properly distributed all around. Weak governance and all these things. These are things that contribute to coups. But you see that in our instance here, you see a lot of infrastructure and things going on, spreading development around. These things go a long way to stem some of these complaints.
Right. Hold for me, Captain. Let me bring in Paul as well. There's this message that comes through. Alberto Kante says, why should any government be afraid if they are delivering corrupt and selfish people? That's what he says. We've looked at the dynamic of governance and the domino effect in the sub-region. And now the Chief of Defense Staff says we won't support a coup. But based on the other dynamics we've considered, should we just take that word for it, or would we be sort of living in a fool's paradise if we did so?
Good for that one.
Hello, Paul. If you could speak up for me, I'd be grateful.
Can you hear me now?
It's better.
Okay. I will say assurances are good. And looking at where he sits, he cannot say anything different. But one thing you should know also is that he is not a hypnotizer who can go to everybody's mind, especially the soldiers, to know that no one is interested in, staging coup d'etat. And there are so many factors that when you get to that point, the military will have no option than to intervene because they have the wherewithal to do so. I've heard so many things, and a lot of people also are saying you should go and sleep. But I disagree with anyone who will say that we should go and sleep, because we cannot just take the assurances from the military and go to bed. If I heard Mr. Coulson right, he said if some of the logistics are provided to the military, some of the things that maybe you can say that can prevent coup d'etat. Well, one thing that we have observed over a few years now is elections. When you are elected leader and you decided to take the law, or you decided to do away with the principles of democracy, for example, those that we have seen from Côte d'Ivoire and this place, Guinea. When you are elected, there is constitution that we are all to defend the constitution. But what do you see? If you're a leader and you say you are practicing democracy, your term of office has expired, instead of you to bow down peacefully, you go ahead trying to amend the laws and be in power. When you get to that point and people start calling the military, people start, calling and start doing something that is going to affect the country, don't expect the military to stay in barracks, because if you go through their sort of training, they are to protect the territorial integrity from external aggression. That is one. They also have to maintain internal security. Assuming something is happening, like it happened in Sudan, and you think that the military will stay in balance because they have given us assurance, that will not happen, because one, they have to step in to make sure that things are done right. One thing that people are trying to do, especially when it gets to elections, you often see the leaders, their intention is to securitize the elections, electoral process especially. And when you do that, you take using an election as an existential threat and trying to find every means available to win an election. And you expect the people, especially the opposing side, to be calm and just going to bed. These are some of the things that we have to talk about. It's not about giving out a sure assurance, or maybe the military high command has been giving some of the logistics that they are looking for. You get my point? There are so many things that goes on before military will step in. And I've just given you one, elections in particular. Apart from other economic and bad governance, these are some of the things that we have to take a very critical look at the whole thing. So I don't agree with anybody who will come to tell us that because of the assurances you should go and sleep. No, I don't agree. And this is not the first time. Maybe I've just said Jackson. He's saying that it's now 30%. 2021, when we conducted our survey, 20%
Which survey was this? Which survey was this?
No, 2021 was conducted by Axis. I think I've said this so many times ago. In fact, I'm the first person predicted that coup is going to happen in Africa. That was 2020. And I've said it over and over and over again. So we conducted a survey here, and 20% were calling for coup d'etat. And sometimes people don't, agree with some of us when you say certain things. But it's good that you say it, because when you say it, it gives the idea to the leadership, those in government, to take measures. But if you keep quiet and thinking that, okay, if you say this, people are going to talk about it, they are going to start you, and you keep quiet, you might not know. But when you say it and people start talking about, even if the leaders are doing something bad that they think that is going to cause them to lose power or maybe invite the military to intervene, they will do some of the
things, maybe
change their way.
Right, thank you. That's an important point you make. Coming to you, Justice, feeding off or segueing from what he said, you would realize that the Chief of Defense Staff then says, quote, "It's mostly the press who put the fear of military coups in the people. But I want to assure you that we have the interest of the nation at heart." Mind you, he was engaging the presidency, among others, of the GJA. I found that interesting. I don't know whether they would prefer that we just keep mum, shush, pretend nothing is there, till maybe disaster strikes, or whether this is the right thing to do, responsibly, to have conversations about the issue. What's your take?
Well, my understanding of the role of journalists is that they are supposed to hold power to account. They are supposed to ensure that there is respect for the rule of law, that those who have power use that power in a way that benefits especially the most vulnerable in society. And so I think they're only, in a sense, reporting what is happening. And we cannot have a democracy in which the press is muzzled, as it were. I think maybe one thing we also need to say is that the whole point of democracy is not to prevent, if you like, a coup d'etat. I mean, we want a democracy so that, again, we can organize ourselves, or at least we think that's the best way that we can organize ourselves in a way that respect who we really are, people who have a sense of dignity, people who want to be treated equally before the law, people who want answers to their questions, especially the way that their resources are used, and that these resources are used to benefit the majority of the people, and so forth. This is the point of, I think, democratic governance. And if things are not happening, or at least the public have concerns about these sort of issues, our interest should be to find, again, within that democratic space, ways that we can improve. And I think that should be where our attention is. How can we ensure that there is greater accountability? How can we ensure that even the limited resources that we have, they are distributed in a way that benefits most people? How can we ensure that those who abuse their power, they are held to account? Those are the sort of things that we need to do. If we rather spend time undermining institutions, creating a sense of helplessness and powerlessness, that really doesn't, even if we imagine a world in which there's no military. Imagine a world where there is no military, right? There's no risk of any coup. Does that mean that we can allow governance to decay? Does that mean that we can allow unequal distribution of resources? Does that mean that we can allow impunity to prevail? No. So those are really the issues that we need to try to address, and not be so, if you like, preoccupied with military coups per se, as if the whole point of democratic governance is how can we prevent a military coup. I think that's a really negative.
It's just an aspect of the conversation, one aspect of the conversation. But I guess it all boils down to this comment by Senior Gino, who's watching live. He says, fairness is the only option to stop this in Africa. I've heard of instances, like in Nigeria, where some say, you know what, there's the national cake and we're producing oil and all of these resources for the nation. But practically nothing is going on here by way of development. You come to Ghana and there are similar discussions. There's the issue of galamsey and how we're dealing with it. There's the issue of corruption and everything else tied to governance. Now, I put this to you. Justice. You look at Senegal, maybe once considered one of those foremost bastions of democracy, and what is happening there. You look at Gabon, and the ousted president, Ali Bongo, now put out a video, oh, make some noise. Friends, make some noise. And some of us have asked, what noise? The noise of the people when they complain about the economy, the noise of the people when they complain about corruption and unfairness, the noise of the people when they complain about what was happening with the telcos and all of that. No one listened. Then the putsch happens. Look at the money that was found in individuals' homes. Okay? So, are governments not focusing, like you rightly said, too much on regime security? Let's securitize the regime and all of that, rather than on human security, which would mean working on the economy, working on the cost of living, working on the basic things that will make people happy and prevent them from, engaging in such activities.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I think there's a point that we've been making, that at the heart of this is fairness, right? Fair distribution of resources, fair distribution of opportunities, a fair criminal justice process, a fair electoral process, accountability, and so forth. I think these are the issues, and we need to try to address them. I think it's instructive that the former president of Gabon could only use the word noise, because to him, probably what the citizens were talking about when he was in power was noise. And so he expects similar things. Rather than pointing to specific things that he had done, he could have said, look, when I was in power, I created opportunities. It didn't matter whether you belonged to my family or not. It didn't matter whether you were a friend. The opportunities were equally distributed to everyone. Look at the employment rates that have improved. Look at the crime and security that has improved, and so forth. He wasn't pointing to those things. And I think that's instructive in that sense. And that's the point that we've been making, that democracy needs to work for the people. That's the really fundamental issue. It needs to work for the people. We cannot allow it to be hijacked by political and economic elites who are only concerned about their interests and so forth. And I think the point has been made time and time again that in Ghana and in other countries within the sub-region, resources are not being used in the way that improve the living conditions of citizens. And I think that needs to be addressed.
That needs to be addressed.
Really what we need to work on to improve or consolidate our democracy.
Hold for me. Let me bring in Captain Budukumson, retired. Captain, you have already acknowledged that some of the ingredients that we've seen in other countries that have gone the way of coup d'etats are also present here. Hoping I'm not misquoting you. If I am, please address that. But given your experience, what should the nation be doing to avoid any attempts at a coup? What should we be doing now? You don't wait for disaster to strike. What should we be doing?
Thank you for that. I would say that, look, I shouldn't be gotten wrong. Providing the military with the necessary equipment and good leadership is just one aspect of security in the country. Like the speaker said, we should not make democracy about regime security. No, it's one aspect. The main aspect of peace and stability in these regions is good governance, deepening good governance. Because if there is unfair distribution of development, if a sitting president will try to change the constitution to extend his tenure in office, if the development is not fairly shared, and bad governance results in stresses to the people. These things actually undermine security in the state, not just the military. Good governance in all aspects. Independence of the judiciary is key. Freedom of expression is key. Corruption is tackled openly. Are things are key. But what we should be doing different is exactly what are the causes of these things that are happening. Good governance, as I said, we have to deepen democracy. And this acrimonious campaigning and electioneering thing has to be tamped down, you know. And then this thing about winner takes all syndrome is also inimical to peace. We have to improve political tolerance of, let's say, the opposition. Judiciary has to be strengthened. State institutions have to be strengthened. And these are the things I think we should be doing differently to prevent, like I said, we have to look at the causes, things that give rise to these things, because it's the political and social causes, stresses in the system that actually trigger some of these coups, because the militaries are the only organized force that actually can force change. The ordinary person on the street is quite weak force change. These are some of the things I would say.
All right. Before, as we gear up to wrap the conversation, I will also look at what other measures we can bring to bear to forestall a coup. But from where you sit, Captain, how will you rate the security of the country from where you sit currently? If you had, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you had to rate security situation in Ghana, where would you peg it?
Well, considering the negative proximity situation we have to all these disturbances around and the possibility of contagion, I would rate our security about, say, 7.
Our security is at 7.
Yeah, 6, 7. You know, 6, 7. But anything can happen. That's why I say we can't just go to sleep and say that can we go to sleep because the CDS says it. No, we can't go to sleep. There's a lot of stress in the system, a lot of economic hardship in the system. The people need development and all these things. And from the political, social side, we have to improve, go on constant improvement, and let the people also see what is happening, transparency in government. These are the things that will actually make it safer. We can improve the security rating of the country. I would say around 6, because the situation is not that too good.
Okay, so did you just end by saying around 6?
Yes, I'll say around 6.
Okay, so your score is 6 out of 10 in terms of security in Ghana. For you, Paul, to cap off the conversation, where would you rate us when it comes to security currently in Ghana on a scale of 1 to 10 on that very level? What would be your rating?
To give specific figure, but what I know for sure is that when it comes to security in West Africa, Ghana is number 1. No other country can compete with us in that score. But to rate them will be something that, because you can even rate them 10. It doesn't matter. Someone can take or maybe do something that may not even expect it. But I would not like to rate them in that. But
what would you prefer as the solutions moving forward? What briefly should we be looking at to forestall any such happenings?
I think fairness. If we're able to apply democratic principles, and if that happens and people feel comfortable, people feel happy with the system, if any military man take guns, the citizens will send that person, they will chase him away. It's happening in La Côte d'Ivoire. When General Gay came for the second time, he wanted to stay on power. The citizens of La Côte d'Ivoire chased General Gay out. It's happening in Burkina Faso. It was when Blaise Compaoré wanted to stay on power, the citizens of Burkina Faso chased him out. So if the leaders, elected leaders, practice good governance, if any military come to state coup d'etat, the citizens of the country will chase them away.
Does that mean, like we've seen across West Africa, just briefly, in some countries, even Niger, Burkina Faso, with people celebrating, does that mean that maybe they got it wrong? And that is why some people, of course, not all people, but some people, quite a number of people were, in a celebratory mood?
Yes, because before any military leader or military person take a gun to stage a coup, the citizens, they have, heard something, and they have also understand the situation on the ground. Because when people start talking, even though they are embarrassed, they also feel what is going on. And we have to protect the Constitution. And as a leader, elected leader, if you are not practicing democracy, good governance, and adopt what I term democratic coup d'etat, you don't expect military to stay at Barra. They also come with military coup d'etat. That is what is going on. So if you're able to stick to the principles of democracy, and we cannot be perfect, that one, we cannot be perfect. But if the citizens are happy with what you are doing, they will even protect you. Okay. No one will dare take a gun or come to do sort of things.
Okay. Let me thank you for that final take. Let me bring in Justice Tankebe. What would be your rank for Ghana from where you sit as far as security is concerned? And what solutions would you proffer to cap off the conversation?
I think it's really difficult. I don't really know enough of the various variables to be able to give a rating per se. But I think the question we need to ask ourselves, this recent wave of coups, I think they started around 2020, and we've had about 7 or so of them. We need to ask ourselves, what have we done in Ghana since at least 2020 in terms of governance? Has governance improved? Has the rule of law specifically improved? Has corruption, have we done enough to be able to tackle corruption? Have we done enough to create equal opportunities? Have we done enough in all these other areas and so forth? Or at least are we signaling to the population our commitment to improving on these in these areas? And I think a fair judgment must be that, in fact, things appear to be deteriorating over the last how many years. And I think that should be our worry. Again, our worry not because we want to prevent a coup, our worry because it would mean more people are being pushed down the poverty line. It means people's rights are being abused. It means people are going sometimes without food and so forth. Those are the issues that we really need to be concerned about. And I think in highlighting the issues that we have been discussing, we are as the potential correlates of this instability and so forth. We are invariably saying that those are the issues that need to be addressed. Okay. Yes, any efforts now will not yield results overnight, but at least they can create a certain confidence, a certain assurance. That's the assurance that we need. It's not the assurance from the military high command. That really, to me, hasn't got much of a significance to it. The assurance that we need is the one that signals that, look, we are allowing state institutions to operate. The state institutions themselves recognize their responsibility to citizens, and they are working towards carrying out that responsibility. Those are the things that I think we need, and we really need to work on these issues as urgently as we can.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for having joined the conversation. We're grateful to you. Justice Tankebe, you just heard him speak. He is a criminologist and associate professor at Cambridge University. Also joining the conversation, Paul Kunle Boateng. He's a security analyst. And we also had someone who's been in the military and also analyzes security-related matters, Captain Budukumsin, retired. Thank you once more, gentlemen. Before I introduce the next conversation, I'm going to be sipping on some water when I take a break, and we all know water is life. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. Now, we have the perfect sizes for all purposes, 330 and 500 milliliter bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 milliliters for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more, like moi. Now, it doesn't stop there. We also have 19-liter jar bottles, which are ideal for homes and offices. So all you must do now is drink Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. Choose a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water today and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you buy, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. For bulk purchases, just call 0262 351 251. And remember, this advert is FDA approved. Also note, no matter your water needs, Syntex Tank has it all. Syntex Tank is the first to introduce double layer tanks, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tank has been the first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana. And now we're introducing to you the customer specifications order, which lets you order any color and any size of preference. Syntex Tank gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank company in Ghana is offering you. So whatever your water consumption, size of project, or demand, choose Syntex Tank. We have agents nationwide as well. Just reach out to Syntex on the number 0244 333 168 or shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex Tank, a strong, a tough. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show, and we continue with our big stories. Now, the second big one we're looking at has to do with your health and my health. Now, acute hemorrhagic conjunctivitis. It's a viral infection. It's under the pink eye group. We all call it Apollo, but we'll be getting some dynamics on what it is. We're talking about it because in recent times, the GOA, the Ghana Optometric Association, has told us that it's spreading. And of course, I've seen it. I've seen someone recently who has had it. But what's going on? We get all the answers as we host our guest, Dr. Jifa Bella Ofori Ejay. She is president of Ophthalmological Society of Ghana and a consultant pediatric ophthalmologist at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Thank you, ma'am, for joining the conversation.
Thank you, Ben.
It's good to have you.
Good to have you too.
I love your shade of... Is it brown this morning? I caught you off guard there.
You did. Because you know the gay girls, they are the good ones in colors. If you say brown, they will say burnt.
That's why.
And it's a whole.
That's why I decided to go safe and say a shade of brown.
So I will be quiet about that.
So your gay girls will.
My gay friends will give me pressure. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. For all the gay, ex-students, former students watching. Please tell us what color specifically this is. You can send it to the live stream. That's just on the lighter side. We all call it Apollo.
Yes.
What's it supposed to be called? Let's start from there.
Okay. So it's an epidemic keratoconjunctivitis. So when you look at the eye, there's a white part of the eye and then the black part of the eye. There's this thin film that covers that white part, and it sort of lines the inside of the lid as well. That is called the conjunctiva. It looks like a cling film, and it just lies there and gives protection over the sclera. Occasionally, it may get inflamed, and when it gets inflamed, we call it conjunctivitis. It can be caused by a virus, or it can be caused by a bacteria. The epidemic one, the one that spreads, is the one that is caused by the virus. There are different types of viruses that will cause a viral conjunctivitis. You have the adenovirus, you have the Coxsackie virus. The term Apollo actually originated in 1968 when the Apollo mission landed first on the moon. That is when the first outbreak was recorded in the world, and it was recorded in Ghana.
It was tied to the name.
Yeah, so it was tied to the name. That is the acute hemorrhagic type that you rightly said, and it's caused by the enterovirus and the coccidiovirus. But after that, we've had different types of epidemic conjunctivitis that have been caused by other viruses. By Ghana, we use the term loosely Apollo to mean viral conjunctivitis.
So
that
if
is different from the acute hemorrhagic one.
If my understanding is correct, for example, in the COVID-related, we have even the common cold is in that family.
Influenza, then you have your SARS, and then you have your
COVID-19 and everything in between. So that's how it's.
Yes, so it's like calling every flu COVID-19.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I hope you understand the way I've understood it, because that's what came to mind. So just to veer off quickly, so when you're using, I use alatoxin. I'm a fan of shea butter and alatoxin. You know, it's one of the most dangerous things to have it get into your eye. Does that also, when it affects, does it affect the conjunctiva?
It can give some kind of chemical conjunctivitis. That's completely different from this. This is a viral infection. The reason why there is a lot of talk about it is the fact that it is highly contagious.
Right.
Okay. But the good thing is that it is self-limiting and usually benign. So usually will not result in very serious consequences.
Right.
But because it's highly contagious, it's important that we are careful when there is an epidemic. Okay, so typically people will present with a pink eye. Okay, then they'll complain of tearing. They'll complain of sand, a feeling of sand or gritty sensation.
Sensitivity.
Yes, and sometimes light sensitivity. And that sensation makes you want to put your fingers into your eye. And that is how you spread it. So as long as you come into contact with the fluid, any surface you touch, if someone touches it, then they get it. So imagine there's an outbreak in a nursery school. Touch the eye, touch
kids will touch everything.
And then every child in the school gets it, takes it home. For some reason, children deal with it nicely. So usually the disease should take anything between 14 days to 21 days. It's self-limited, meaning that if you don't do anything about it, it will get better in about 80% of the cases. A few of people, it may become severe. But for most people, it will just resolve by itself. But the symptoms that it gives, because of the way it spreads, we give you treatment, symptomatic treatment, like we did during COVID. Steam inhalation, you know, drink something warm. Yes, so it's the same things to make you comfortable so you don't put your fingers into your eye to limit the spread. So these children will have it, and sometimes after about 4 or 5 days, they are good. And their parents have it, and for 3 weeks, they are home.
I mean, children are a whole different...
Exactly. So that is what we have to be careful about. So make sure that you are not touching your eyes, you're washing your eyes with soap and water. And most of the times, cold compresses, that's magic. So a lint-free cloth or face towel, what we call it, just put it in cold water and put it on the eye. It's so soothing, most people will not even need any eye drops at all. So usually the eye drops that we'll give will be something just to make the eye comfortable, so you are not having that sandy feeling, because that gritty sensation is what makes you want to put your fingers in your eye. Now, if your hands were contaminated and you put it into your eye, then you can secondarily infect it with bacteria. And then that is when you have that whitish discharge. And then there is a bacterial infection that actually may have a lot more consequences than just the plain viral conjunctivitis.
Okay, so I'll come to, I know that in treating it, for some people, it may get to the point where, I remember the last time I had it, which is so long ago, but you would see that sometimes you would wake up in the room, your eyelids are clasped shut, apart from the greasiness and everything, and it's very uncomfortable. So sometimes you may have to dispense
some lubricant,
eye drop or something.
We call it artificial tears. So just take note, this is not antibiotics, this is not chloramphenicol, because antibiotics will not have any effect on the viruses. So you're not using antibiotics.
They won't?
Yes, because antibiotics are for antibacterial infections, right?
Okay.
And this is
this is a virus.
So you don't need antibiotics. So just to make the eye comfortable, usually you have these artificial tears that may be sold over the counter. Just put it in your eye, just to make your eyes comfortable. Most important things, fingers should not go into the eye. Fingers should.
It's like having chicken pox and they tell you not
to
scratch, but you are itching all over. Oh my word!
Yes,
Anyway.
the fingers must not go into the eye. Once the fingers don't go into the eye, you do not transmit it, and then you yourself don't get secondarily infected. And then over time, it gets better. The first 10 days, or when the eye is really red, is the most contagious time. So that is when you can quickly pass it on to other people. It's said that maybe the first 4 to 7 days is the most severe type. So you become worse. When it starts, you become worse before you begin to get better. And typically, we'll start with one eye and then move on to the other eye. Most important thing is do not use seawater. Do not use your herbal preparation, your breast milk. One of the guys was asking me when I was coming.
Breast milk?
Yeah.
People have advanced.
Yeah.
Advanced technology.
Yeah, so people would use breast milk for it. People would use seawater, salt water.
But seawater, how can you even, that will irritate?
Because they feel that it's sterile, in quote. So if there is any problem with the surface of the cornea and you instill any of these things, it may result in blindness. So you are better.
Wait, hold for me.
Yes.
I want you to go slowly there.
Yes.
You are saying that,
yeah.
If you have any such eye infection and you choose to go and use, for example, seawater, does it include the breast milk?
Breast milk, herbal preparation, urine, all these things that we use.
Urine?
All people do that. People even drink urine to cure certain diseases. So people use all kinds of things to. It is self-limiting. It will get better. It will become
And you say that all those can cause blindness.
If there is a problem on the surface, imagine if it is just a viral conjunctivitis, you may get away with it. But if there's a little scratch on the clear part of the eye, what we call the cornea, it may result in a cornea ulcer. That cornea ulcer, if not treated well, will result in cornea opacity and then will result in blindness.
Wow.
Yes. So it's important that you allow it to run its course. Okay, cold compresses would help. Artificial lubricants, whatever you do, do not let your fingers go into
the cold compressors you're speaking of. So what? A damp
so cold face towel. Just
face
dip
towel.
it in tap water, cold water. Just close your eyes, squeeze the water out, close your eyes, and just put it on it.
Okay.
Yeah, close your lids and just put it on it, and it's so soothing. I had a few colleagues who had it, and like you have had it several years ago, I have also had it several years ago, and I fear it so much because I have seen adults behave like children when they have got it.
It's painful.
So sometimes I see close to 8 to 9 kids with it. I wash my hands every single time. I don't even use a hand sanitizer. I wash my hands with soap and water. By the time I'm done, my skin is so dry, it looks like the skin of a crocodile or something, but I prefer that to getting it. So constant washing of that. Imagine this is something I do every day and I see all these kids and I haven't had it. It just tells you that if you take precautionary measures, you're not likely to get it.
Speaking of those precautionary measures, apart from hand washing and all of that, is there any way of preventing it? Like with COVID, we're told that, your immune system, take care of your immune system because that can also, help in combating it, like it would do the common cold. Does the immune system or anything else play a role?
So you will not have a full-blown one with the tearing, with the red eyes, with the... Some people have it and it passes quickly. They notice their eyes are pink, tearing here and there, a bit uncomfortable, and then it passes quickly. So sometimes some people are able to rid off the virus, just like in COVID, people's viral load of the COVID came down drastically after a few days, while some of us had to stay till about 14 to 21 days to clear the virus. So yes, when you're healthy, it helps. But most importantly, do not put anything in your eye that would worsen it. Because if left alone, you should be fine.
There are two things that are probably the nightmare of a broadcaster on TV like I am, or even on radio, but especially on TV. The common cold, or COVID, in that family, and that one. I run away from it like the plague. So we have that in common. And I wash my hands a lot.
Exactly.
Not even before COVID, I was doing that. Now it's been accelerated.
Yeah,
but what is causing this current outbreak and how bad is it? Because I've actually seen about 2 people who have it.
I think it's actually subsiding. The difficulty is that we're not able to sample what exact virus is causing it, because it is a clinical diagnosis. You see the person, you look at them under the slit lamp, there's something we see on the conjunctiva called follicles, and then a few things that make us know that, this is a epidemic viral keratoconjunctivitis. And because it is self-limiting, we typically will not go take samples to the lab to find out which exact virus is causing it. But because this virus is highly contagious, that is why it is spreading so quickly. And I think it happened around the time when the kids reopened school. So then it's actually increased contact and then spread it quite across the entire country. Yes, so typically it is because it is highly contagious, and that is why when it comes, so we've gotten a few of these epidemics in the past. Even this year, we got a few of them, but probably because that virus wasn't very, very contagious, it just settled in that community or in that school among those children, and then it got better. This one seems to be a bit virulent and then going around. But because it's, like I said, it's self-limiting, it is not cost-effective going to spend so much money sampling that virus, etc.
Unless maybe you're on set like I am, or you're acting a movie and you need this to be gone in.
Unfortunately,
it
can't be gone. It can be gone. Once it starts, you you just have to be patient for it to run its course.
So don't even get it in the first place. Do whatever possible. Build your immune system, wash your hands, avoid too much contact with someone who may have it, and just put in place the right processes. I know that the Ghana Health Service has also, is also involved in all of this. When you read today's Ghanaian Times newspaper, it says the Ghana Optometric Association, I don't know whether it's not supposed to be optometrists, which confirmed the nationwide outbreak, said that seeking professional care was important to prevent spread and possible complications from the infection. So when it happens like this, you're saying it will deal with itself, this is also suggesting that we must seek, help. Which is which? How do we go about it?
So usually the mild ones, and there are lots of people who've had it who haven't come to the hospital. I have personally had
sometimes it's financial, though. It's not because of options.
Yeah, but I have had family members, friends who have had it and haven't had to go into the hospital because they know what it is. But definitely, when you get it and it is painful, you're uncomfortable, you must seek proper medical care. And that is why we spoke about the don'ts. This is because in recent times, unfortunately, you can acquire any medicine at all you want in Ghana over the counter. Okay, some people will use medicines that have been given to other people for whatever condition, and it may worsen it. So once you are not comfortable, you need to seek medical care. So you have the ophthalmologists available, you have your ophthalmic nurses available, you go to your polyclinic, you just report to them, and then we will take good care of you. Yes.
Okay, a few more things from this story that I want you to clarify for us, and some myths that I may want you to debunk. You've already spoken about the seawater, urine, breast milk, and other things that are used. Yeah. I mean, I can't even think of breast milk is filmy already. I have some more. But here, so infected persons are also urged to discard of tissue used in cleaning the eyes and to avoid using handkerchiefs to clean discharging eyes. Yeah. Tell us a bit more about
So this is basically, you remember I said that it is transmitted when you come into contact with a fluid, okay? And then you touch anything, any contact your hand has with that contaminated fluid will transmit the disease. So we suggest that you use something like tissue paper, because once you use a tissue paper, you dispose of it. If you're using a handkerchief, it goes back into your pocket. It will mix with the money in your pocket, mix with the dirt in your pocket. And if you use that same handkerchief back into the eye, you are
reinfecting yourself.
You're using bacteria, because then there are germs there, and those germs can give you a secondary infection. Okay, and if that money is given to someone, or those car keys are handed over to someone with the virus on it, they accidentally touch their eye, then the spread continues. So once you use a tissue, you dispose of it, you wash your hands. If you don't touch your eyes, that's the best thing, because then you are sure that you're not transmitting it. But then again, you have issues with people who use pillows together, who sleep on the same bed, so that's one to can be transmitted.
Quick question. Can you reinfect yourself? Here's what I mean. How quickly can you get the virus back? Because let's say you use even tissue or a handkerchief. Let's say when it is resolving itself, it's been 2-3 weeks, and you've practically gone through the process. Now, somehow, a few days later, you take the same handkerchief and use it. Can you reinfect yourself?
No, that same handkerchief, no. That same handkerchief, no, because it's that same virus, right?
Okay.
So you would have immunity over it, unless there's another epidemic of a different strain.
Okay.
That is what you may be able to pick up.
Okay.
But with that same virus, and remember the handkerchief, we're not so worried about the viral, reinfecting yourself with the virus, like the secondary bacterial infection, of course.
Yeah, because that could be even more deadly.
That could be the problem. Yes.
Right. There's also this assertion that, and it's like when we started hearing about AIDS, people said, you shouldn't touch them, you shouldn't do this and that. Thankfully, we've gone past that phase. But now we hear that some people even believe that, the person has it. You look at the what is the
I can imagine the ophthalmologists in Colombo, everybody should have pink eye by now, because we are looking at people who have it. So it is just a myth. Okay, it is just a myth. It's just supposed to say that that's how contagious it is, even by looking at someone, but you won't get it, because we even get to examine the people behind the slit lamp. We touch the eye and all that. So wash your hands is important. Wash your hands, and then make sure that your hands do not go into your eye if you have a viral conjunctivitis. Yes.
Okay. I believe we've addressed all of those pertinent issues. What other things are you going to leave us with as we deal with the spread? And, I don't think as of now, like COVID, we'll talk of reporting or anything. It's self-resolving.
And it's benign. You know, COVID was in some cases was fatal. So that is what we were worried about. This one usually is benign.
It will not result in death.
Yes. So unless, of course, there's secondary infection, then the clear part of the eye gets a scar, and that is what we worry about. So once you get it, you think it is too severe, you cannot deal with the pain, you have to seek medical attention, because you may have the severe form. So if you have it, you're tearing, pink eye, it's itchy here and there, but you're fine, that's okay. But the moment you think that this is too painful, your lids are swollen shut, you are having whitish discharge of the eye, you need to seek medical attention. And by medical attention, I mean medical professional, not going to buy medication.
Don't go to we're not demonizing herbs. We know of their efficacy and everything when they come through the approved routes. I have seen once in a regional hospital, I was visiting someone, I believe this was in Koforidua, where someone, you see how when you have parched land, that has become so dry. There are so many cracks on it.
Someone's skin was.
This was literally the person's skin from head to toe. And some pus, very bad odor was coming out. The person eventually passed in that ward. And guess what? That person had something common. Was it typhoid or fever? Some sort of. Gone to a herbalist. And the herbalist had given this person something. I don't know whether maybe it was just because this person had maybe a natural allergy or something reaction to it. But that was what happened from hands, head, face, whole body.
Yeah.
It was agonizing. I watched this young man. He was about 19 or 21.
Yeah.
So let's be careful with some of these things. You may do them and regret for life. Some of them, what they will leave you with, you can't remedy it for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
So you have to
and for
watch
your
out
eye, you cannot get a spare eye. Who's going to give you the other eye? You cannot get, even if someone was willing to give you their spare eye, it could not be medically possible unless you are transplanting some part of the eye. So the eye is a precious organ. God gave us two for good reasons. So you've got to keep both of them. Yeah.
Just this final bit, it came to mind while you were speaking. So for someone who maybe may not introduce something else, but let's say the person already has an underlying issue on the eye, whether glaucoma or whatever, is there a difference when they get pink eye?
Not necessarily. Maybe if you're diabetic, okay, because you know diabetes, if you have an infection and your sugars are not well controlled, it becomes very florid. And then if you are someone who wears contact lens, so if you wear a contact lens wearer, you have pink eye, say no, you've got to take off the contact lenses And
I
then
have,
wear your
okay,
glasses.
for those who use contact
lenses,
right.
yes. So if you use contact lenses and you have pink eye, you want to just let the eye rest a bit, take the contact lenses out and use your glasses for the period that you have the pink eye. So basically these are some of the things. And someone who has low, an immunocompromised person, someone with low immunity, the disease may have a different cause in that person. But in healthy individuals, if you have symptoms and it is bothersome, you should just go to the nearest hospital and seek help. Yes.
So the final bit there, when you get pink eye, you have more life. What you are saying, no slaying with pink eye. So if you have pink eye, please contact lenses, no man, down. Don't come and give us any wahala. That's in our conversation this morning with Dr. Jifa Bella Oforiaje. And that's a very Wegehe-ish name.
Oh, no, it's not. Nah, not Wegehe-ish at all. My Gehe friend.
I'm looking for trouble this morning
for
with
me.
the Gehe. No, for myself.
My roommate is from Gehe. So
your roommate is from Gehe.
I get that a lot. I get that a lot.
Yo.
Medical school, yeah.
All right. She's president of the Ophthalmological Society of Ghana. It's always a mouthful. Consultant pediatric ophthalmologist at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Doc, it's been enjoyable. I would have shaken your hand, but on second thought,
you are scared. My hands are.
I'm not saying scared, but hopefully, if I have anything, I'll not transmit it to you, and if you have anything, you'll not transmit it to me. So, let's start the example from
right here.
From right
I
here.
agree.
Thank you so much for joining the
My
conversation.
pleasure. Thank you to your listeners too.
Right. So we continue right here on the AM show. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM show as we talk about livestock, poultry among others. Now in recent times, we've had anthrax cases with cattle and all of that in different parts of the country. Well, today we have a conversation with Zoetis and the Sub-Saharan Africa Regional Director, Dr. Gabriel Varga, is with us for that conversation. Dr. Varga, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining us here on the
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
So in terms of what we're about to discuss, animal health and everything in between, why should sub-Saharan African leaders start getting concerned? I just mentioned anthrax and what we've suffered in Ghana. Why should animal health be given prime of place?
I think it's relatively simple and very complex at the same time. I mean, the GDP of each country, whether it's sub-Saharan Africa or in Europe or US or Asia, is very much dependent on agriculture. Part of the agriculture is livestock. And clearly the livestock needs to supply the animal proteins to the growing population. That's one thing. Secondly, the fragility of the production with all the climate changes, making sure that the urbanization, the trend in urbanization, there are a lot of poultry farmers, a lot of farmers in the countryside, but a lot of young people move into cities where they lose that connection with animals. So all this is very important. And I think all the governments need to have a concern because it's a big contributor to GDP. At the same time, it doesn't have that kind of focus of the governments.
And Ghana, happens to be one of those countries with high poultry consumption. Many years ago, we had a lot of poultry farms in the country. Some of them have dwindled on the back of lack of raw material for feed, among others. But what are the insights into poultry that maybe you feel you could share from Zoetis that Ghana should be looking at?
Yeah, I think it's a very important topic. And if you look back before COVID, between 2017, 19, 21, Ghana was very strong in poultry. Poultry production was extremely strong. But then, because of the changes, both political changes, COVID changes, and the cost of the feed, influenced the decline of this. Today, at least from my information, only about 2 to 5% of the total poultry consumption is covered by local production. So it seems that there is a big growth for investment, big potential for that. I am here second time in Ghana. I always eat poultry, so I will hope.
You're a big fan of chicken.
I will hope to contribute to that as well. But at the same time, we have to make sure that we are here to support this regrow of the poultry industry. Poultry industry is one of the fastest moving industry. You know, to produce chicken is much faster than cows or swine or other species. So I think it has a big effect.
Quickly though, if I were to ask you about the state of poultry in Ghana, I mean poultry farming. So of course you know that we have a very huge import situation when it comes to poultry products.
Yeah.
Where do you think we are in Ghana currently?
I think we are still in a dip. Today we have a big poultry session in one of the hotels here in Ghana. We invited about 45 main poultry producers, specialists, key opinion leaders to have a roundtable discussion. We are not here to tell them what to do. We are here to facilitate, to support, but we need to know where to support. And that's what's happening today here in Accra. And I think that we are still hit by high feed costs, by some diseases which are hitting the industry, and maybe also the cheap import. So here we need to work with governments on public-private partnerships to make sure that we protect the farmers. At the same time, we need to make sure that the high feed costs are compensated by higher efficiency. So the kilo of feed needs to be better transformed to meat than it's today. And we have different ways how to achieve it.
And how exactly is Zoetis helping in animal development as far as all these things that you're mentioning are concerned?
So Zoetis being the leader in the animal health industry globally, we would of course like to be leaders in Ghana as well. At the same time, we have the obligation to help the society. So we have several ways how we are approaching it. We are approaching it through a kind of continuum of care. It sounds nice, but what does it mean? We can predict, so we look at genetics of animals, what type of genetics is fitting better. We look at diagnostics, so we build diagnostics facilities together with our farmers. We do prevent, so we import vaccines to prevent and also to reduce the antibiotic usage in the poultry.
I see.
And also we are helping to make sure that we have enough products delivered to the farmers in a good state. You know, vaccines need cold chain. And to make sure that the vaccine is getting into the animals in the right way, you need to do all this. So we call it continuum of care, and that's how we do it.
There's no break in the cycle. It's a continuous cycle.
Exactly, and we cannot do it alone. I love this African proverb that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with
together.
Partners.
Yeah.
So we have several partners, and I would say one of the biggest partners we have is Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We signed a deal with them 7 years ago to try to let's say support the farmers to be more efficient, more productive. And these first 5 years ended last year, and based on success, we signed another contract for another 5 years where Ghana is also involved. So we have joint venture, joint investment into Ghana with Gates Foundation, Zoetis, and local partner of Drujba, who is our distributor here in Ghana.
I see. And even as you talk about this wide scope of endeavor as far as Zoetis is concerned, you operate in other countries, right?
Yeah.
Ethiopia,
Yeah.
Tanzania, among others.
Yeah.
Nigeria as well?
As well. And actually, that's what I'm very happy that we could include Ghana into this, because the pilot first 5 years were only focusing on 4 countries. It was Nigeria, Ethiopia, Uganda, and Tanzania. And now with the new 5 years, we expanded also to Ghana and another 6-7 countries in the sub-Saharan region. We work globally with Zoetis in more than 120 countries. And I'm happy that we are giving more support to sub-Saharan African countries, including Ghana as well.
Tell me, what are your projections, looking at your footprint in sub-Saharan Africa? What are your projections in the years to come, as far as especially poultry is concerned?
Yeah, we see already, and I have the pleasure and the honor to visit the last 7-8 years a lot of farmers, which I see continuous growth. So I see farmers who started with few hundred chicken. Now they have several houses where they produce chicken to the consumption, and I see also not only live chicken but also processed chicken. So to support the urbanization, where I see that the industrialization of the poultry production will increase. Of course, there will be backyard farms; they will stay here because it's a part of the life globally. But the need for the demographic changes, the growth of youth, the growth of the urban area will need to have this support. So I see the consolidation of the farms, And obviously, the bigger concentration of animals is getting also more risks. So we need to make sure that we prevent those risks by good diagnostic services and prevention. That's where we see the future.
So that's interesting. Tell us, to cap off the conversation, about your upcoming summit. You have a summit coming up. Tell us about that. Yes. What's the goal of the summit?
So actually, for us, it's one of the most important weeks in the year because we have over 25 distributors in Sub-Saharan Africa, all over the countries.
Do you have any in Ghana yet?
We do have a company called Družba with our good friend Felicity, who is amazing. This lady is just dedicated to it with her whole life. And once a year, we bring the distributors from all these 25 countries into one place. And this year, we are very honored and blessed that we could do it in Ghana. So we do some poultry consumption increase as well by bringing those friends over. But this is the place where we exchange information, exchange knowledge, best practice, and making sure that we plan also the next year's budgets, next year's activities. At the same time, as I mentioned, today is a big poultry meeting, which is focused on Ghana. We brought some specialists from abroad, but we also make sure that we listen to the needs of the poultry farmers, of the poultry business people, and help them to dedicate our resources to that. At the same time, we need to make sure that we work with the right partners. So that's also, we can't do it alone, as I mentioned. And the selection and the training of the partners, not only our distributors, but their clients, is very important. And that's what we are also planning to do all the work plans for the next 2023 and 24.
What are you hoping the impact will be of the summit?
First of all, I hope that everybody will walk away fine with new information. With some more chicken in Ghana. But not jokingly, I think it's very important to align and coordinate things. We, being as a commercial organization, we need to make sure that all the funds, all the investments have their return on investment. And I see it personally as a value chain. If not every single part of the value chain will have benefit from that, then we cannot finalize that circle. So we are really looking into the ways how to make it more effective, the production of animal proteins, how to support the different levels of farmers, the major farmers.
In the value chain.
In the value chain. And to look for new partners, new public-private partnership, but also to work with those who are processing the meat, who are then doing the reselling of the products into the market. So it's more about cooperation basically, and more about alignment of our activities. And the best way how to invest the co-funding of Gates Foundation, Zoetis, and local farmers.
Final words, Dr. Varga. Any final words?
First of all, thank you for hospitality. It's always great to come to Ghana, to Accra, and I see already in the last 7-8 years the progress here. I see the way of interest of the farmers, despite the fact it's in a dip now. But this is a time when we need to go and help and support. So thank you very much for having me, and looking forward to future visits to Ghana.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
They say we shouldn't shake hands that much because of conjunctivitis in the system, but we just did. We just did. Thank you. Dr. Gabriel Varga is Sub-Saharan Africa Regional Director for Zoetis, and he has joined the conversation. Of course, we're talking about the different issues in animal husbandry, specifically on poultry, and what the way forward is for Ghana. But stay with us. Up next, we're also going to be having a conversation with our friends, Graphic Business, Stanbic Bank. It's all about the next breakfast meeting. We'll be right back.
Very good morning to you. Hope you had a great weekend. Thank you for staying here on the AM show. I'm Bernice Abubeidulance, and as always, we are very glad that you make time to join us on the show. It's now time to host two important guests, and we're talking about the Graphic Business Stanbic Breakfast Meeting. And it's one we always look forward to here at Joy News. It's important because there is vital information that always comes out of that particular meeting. Today I've been joined by Franklin Soa. He's Director of Marketing at the Graphic Communications Limited, and Kojola Abi, Director Comms at Stanbic Bank. If you're a regular, you know that Kojola Abi is not too new, but you're welcome, Thank you. Franklin. It's good to see you here. Right, so what are we talking about this time?
This time we're talking about thriving during economic turbulence. And it's a topic that is very relevant for the times in which we find ourselves. We always come up with topics that connect to the people,
I can testify
the
to
business community, and all that. And so we felt that based on what we know, based on what we've seen, it's important to have a conversation around such a theme. And of course, because it's a solution-based platform, you would also want to then have conversations around the courses, around the lessons, and around recommendations as to how we can navigate during turbulent economic times and all that. So that is basically the essence of this conversation this time around.
Right, and you're absolutely right. I'm sure that there are a lot of people who really, really resonate with that subject matter, surviving the times. Mr. Labi, good to have you here once again.
You promoted me, and I quickly have to correct it. I'm not the director of comms.
Oh, you are?
I'm manager of communications.
Oh, manager of communications, okay.
You know, there are some things that I can
but
go beyond your big.
You're a man of faith.
I believe so.
So let's see how it turns out. Manager of communications at Stanbic Group. Thank you for that. So tell us who will be speaking, because aside from the importance of the subject matter, those who speak to it also give it a lot of weight and a lot of reason why we should listen and join the conversation. So just tell us who those are.
Owing to how critical the topic is, we zeroed in on academia first, zeroed in on business, then we got the practitioner, and the names that would go with the areas I've mentioned are, one of our panelists is Mr. Michael Bozumbi, the CEO of, so he's in business.
Okay.
Then from academia, we chose Professor Ejepoma Jechedako.
Okay.
And then another Professor John Gachi. So this is a lecturer, this is a practitioner.
Yeah,
so you want to call him a consultant.
John Gachi is a regular here.
So the idea then is that, yes, there may be blueprints or there may be ways to thriving in this kind of turbulent situation that we are. But why do you want to listen to me? Why should I be the one to talk about it? The best people to talk would be either a practitioner or a business person, a consultant or an academic. And that's why we zeroed in on these people. And we try to have a gender balance there. So 2 men, 1 lady.
Right. Okay, so there you have it. We're putting faces to the names. So Mr. Michael Bozumbi is CEO of Petrosol. You have Professor Japoma Jechedako. She is an economist, and Professor John Gachi, CEO and business advisory expert. And as always, I like to ask, the room cannot hold everybody who wants to be there. So just let us know how we can all be a part of this so that we benefit. That's the whole point, right? Benefit from the conversations and the recommendations that will come out of that.
Should I take it or?
No, you take it. Okay.
Following from what we all learned during the COVID era, which is basically in the background now, we've been doing a hybrid event. So in the room, we would have a number of people, and then we've also extended the invitation to the larger public, so they can join through the Stanbic social media handles. And also
Stanbic. Is it just Stanbic or Stanbic Ghana?
Stanbic Ghana social handles.
Okay.
And then Graphic Communications Group. And then definitely, because Joy is our partner, we said, because multimedia is our partner, we certainly believe that listeners and viewers would also join us and be part of the conversation.
So this is happening tomorrow.
Yes.
At 10 a.m.
From 7 o'clock.
From 7.
So it's breakfast meeting.
Right.
So there's breakfast.
Right. And then we will join you. Those who are not there for the breakfast.
So
it's breakfast. He had to clarify that breakfast for invited guests.
So yes, we have a carefully invited guests who are coming from various backgrounds to contribute into this conversation. So yes, they will be in person.
Right.
And then the rest of the people will join us on our social.
So we'll have our breakfast at home and join you.
I'm
later.
sure.
Or you can have it virtually.
Yes. And then we'll join you from 7 a.m. The program will start, but the conversation start proper around 8 o'clock, right?
Yes.
Right. So from 8 o'clock, we will catch up with you on social media and on this platform to listen to the important conversations. But I really like to find out, for those who don't follow per event, is there a way you catalog these recommendations? Is there a document? Is there a site we can visit? Anything, just help us know so that, sometimes also for academic purposes and references, very important conversations you've had over the years, I must admit.
Right.
Where do we find those conclusions?
Previous instances I've had catalogs that have been done. I mean, rapporteurs report and the rest. It's a good reminder because we haven't as yet published them.
Okay.
I guess after this one, this whole pack will be part of what we would share with the various stakeholders. Remember, we keep talking about policy formulators and all that. So present to them, and then it becomes part of the stock of knowledge that help guide and shape policy in this country.
Right. I just want to find out, why has Stanbic been doing this with graphic business?
Two reasons. We found graphic to be a very credible platform. So graphic then offers the chance to have the likes of Joy and others to also contribute to creating this platform where key national issues can be discussed. And we come on board because we believe when the right things are discussed or pushed, it gives a chance for this economy to grow, because from those nuggets of truth and points that are raised, people learn, people can make more dynamic businesses, and people can make money. When they make money, I guess society benefits, and you'll say with me.
Yeah. And I think that more importantly, relevance of media is not to just talk about issues, but to engage the right people, have proper conversations around issues, see how we can contribute into making lives better and development of our nation. So yes, it's a thought leadership platform, and relevant brands like the multimedia graphic, we can do things better and bigger in this country, and that is why I believe this collaboration is very important to us, and we cherish what we're doing together to support policy initiatives, policy reforms, strategic thinking along the lines of business space and all that. And steadily, I believe that, like you rightly said, some of the reports that we've published, we've handed over officially to the duty bearers, various duty bearers, from ESA to the ministries, relevant ministries and all that. I will continually be doing that. And of course, on our graphic online website and all that, you have a number of these things there. And of course, it's published over a whole period, various angles and aspects and all that. And I think that the multimedia platforms also do a lot of good interviews, follow-up stories and all that. So those who follow definitely have a lot to chew on. We are trusting that relevant brands will always come together to input into a better nation for us.
I'm just curious though, because you mentioned that the reports and conclusions of these meetings are handed over to the duty bearers, those who are responsible for taking the very vital decisions that either foster growth for our economy or take it downhill. I'm just curious why there's no rep of government on this edition. There have been editions where you either have someone from a government institution or a ministry or something of the sort. Is it that they didn't want to be a part of it, or this is...
You invite them.
But they are not speaking.
Sometimes it's good. No, you have a speaking opportunity at the event. But it's always good sometimes to also create a platform where people who usually speak will listen to experts in the various fields, and then they can come up and say that on this is the policy initiative, the policy direction. On that, this feedback is well noted and it will be considered. And you know, there are so many considerations that feed into decisions. So from a strategic perspective, you are saying this. Based on the insights we have, probably your solution may not be the best of solutions in order. So for us, it's a platform to get the experts to talk, to get the various stakeholders to share their thoughts. Put it together, hand it over to those who are in charge of policy development and policy framework, tweaks and turns and all that, to consider how this will be meaningfully applied.
The other thing, though, I mean, I'm going to hazard an answer. I think you don't have government reps on this, is that, you know, people usually say business is difficult to follow, especially when you're doing hardcore business, using the jargons and all those things. But what you're discussing tomorrow affects everybody. The person on the streets, the hawker on the streets, the woman in the market. We are all just learning how to survive. And I hope that the conclusions will translate into how simple...
That's the simple conversation.
How simple the subject is and won't be over our heads.
No way. So the emphasis is on the individual, it's on the SME, it's on the multinational business, and it's also on the nation as a whole. That's why I said I will look at the causes. So as an individual, am I spending within my means for that matter? What lifestyle changes do I have to apply based on current developments in terms of the economy? Some within my control, some outside my control. But bottom line is, irrespective of where you find yourself, you need to work within what you have. So it's a basic principle of life to help all of us reshape, rethink, and re-strategize.
I like that. Final words?
Well, remember when the president spoke at the inauguration, and that expression he made about people not being spectators, but they got to be citizens. I think that we've heard most times people from the government sector speaking. I think sometimes there's a need to have a perspective, similar but different, to join the whole, and then we can have a better package as a country. You get much more of a buy-in, and then hopefully we'll move on from there. So that's how we end up in this situation where, in your opinion, you don't have any government rep. But you recall that in other instances, there have been government reps.
Yes.
It's just in conformity with this whole idea that you got to hear from the other side too. That's how it comes.
Thank you so much for doing this. We will be there tomorrow. We will join you. You can join virtually on the Stambik Ghana Facebook page. It's graphic communications group as well. And this is an important conversation, like it has been said, that will help all of us navigate the time. So do stay with us here on your most credible news source. We will be there to bring you all the important conversations. It's happening tomorrow. Graphic Business Stambik Bank Breakfast Meeting, thriving during economic turbulence. And it's such a great paneling, if you ask me, and one that you must be a part of. Thank you so much to you, Mr. Franklin Soa. He is Director of Marketing at the Graphic Communications Limited, and Mr. Kudrelabi, Comms Manager Communications, Stambik Bank,
Thank you,
Ghana. You're watching the AM show. Benjamin and I will be back to wrap it all up. Please stay. Thank you so much for staying on the AM show, and Benjamin is back. Hello.
Yeah, I'm back joining.
I like what you're doing with your blue theme.
Different shades of blue.
See what I said on Friday when you wore your brown spectacles? I knew you were doing something with your shirt, because now I see what you're doing with the blue.
I also remember what you've been saying about my blue spectacles.
No,
I
didn't say it. It was actually someone who loves watching us who called to say, tell Benjamin his spectacle is quite a spectacle.
Yeah, it is. But even before we get there, your brooch.
Yeah.
The blue color, it would actually
it will look like a lapel. Do you want it?
We'll see. We'll do a little switcheroo right before you go. But even as we head to the end of the show, I got this message come in from one of my mothers, Susan. I'm not sure she would want me to mention her entire name. She says, not sure if you're discussing ECG, but in case you are, here's my take on the matter. So one buys credit for prepaid, but it becomes very difficult and annoying to check your balance and load onto the meter. There was a device that one could use, you know those little devices you can use to check for the prepaid, but all the devices are no longer in use according to ECG. So what does one do? Now there's illegal electricians from ECG charging 50 Ghana cedis each time to load credits and give you a reading. How do we resolve this? Why I had to bring this up? In recent times, I had my own problems with, I used the app trying to load credits onto my meter. Guess what? I had taken my eye off the ball briefly. I had about 9 CDs left. So I quickly topped up. It didn't work. Yeah. I called, I did everything. It didn't work. The following day was a Saturday. I went to the office. That day, I think they were not working. They usually do. So I said, okay, fine. Whenever it's resolved, I'll get my credits. I went to a vendor, network down. Yeah. So I had to, if my light had got, so now I had to turn most of my things off. So the light, I mean.
And that's why I have an issue with ECG saying it's going to go full digital. Because clearly there are problems. You're not the only person. I've had issues with that.
Terrible.
I didn't have light for a number of hours because the system was down. And there's even no value for the client to apologize. Once you know your systems are down, message your clients. Let them know that this is the situation, you understand? So, I mean, that's a clear frustration I think a lot of Ghanaians share.
And now with the heat and everything, I mean, so like I said, I had to literally turn off some gadgets just so it would. And this was like Friday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Can you imagine that?
That's terrible. You can't live like that. Please, ECG, help us so that people don't have reason to engage some of the illegal electricians who would bypass the system to get them light. But that's how we end. Before we do, let
me just do this, else someone will kill me. Yeah. My good friend, Moro Audu, sent in this one. Dedications to Mrs. Edwina Kwashi of Adenta News Site. You turned 64 today. May the Lord Almighty bless you from your children and all of us here. And to Zainab Awimbe Salifu of the Lands Commission. Wonderful person. Belated happy birthday to you. Thank you for everything. Let me just leave it at that. Okay. Leave it there.
All right.
No.
We end this edition of the AM show with Bernice and Benjamin. We're excited that you join us every morning. God willing, we are back tomorrow with another exciting edition. But do stay with us. Aisha Ibrahim is up next with News Desk.